Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham. As you can see, the sign behind me says so it must be right. And we are, according to the international clock, blimey, it can't be. You see, my clock in front of me says 7 o'clock. The international clock says it's 2 minutes past.
Oh.
That's weird, isn't it? Has it moved somehow? Somebody's moved the clock.
There you go, 7:01.
Yeah, 7:01 now. But when we started, it was still 7 o'clock. But the international clock's telling me it's like 7:02 or something.
Not good, is it?
That's not good. In the Chagos Islands, it's midday +2.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe it's accelerating faster than it should do. Anyway, good morning. Welcome. It's Wednesday, the 17th of June, the day before the biggest by-election in the history of Britain, according to many pollsters, according to many MPs. We're going to be talking to Sarah Pochin coming up a little bit later on today from the Reform Party, of course. Ralph Schhammer is back. You'll be glad to know. Steven Barrett will be here to talk us through the latest nonsense from this ridiculous government of ours. Will Geddes is coming into the studio to talk to us about what can only be described as the security of our nation, because yesterday John Healey got up in the Houses of Parliament and gave Keir Starmer what can only be described as a total roasting over the fact that defence is not being properly looked after in this country. And by coincidence, right, after the boarding of a shadow Russian vessel the other day, we've now got all the front page headlines talking about Russian warships firing missiles in the Channel. To be honest, and I don't mean to diminish the ordeal of the two old age pensioners who were on a yacht that happened to be in the firing line of this Russian endeavour, but I don't believe a word of it, right? I don't think this is a story. But yeah, every single front page is covered with headlines about it, right? For example, The Times, Russian warship fires over yacht in Channel. Retired British couple sailing to France recount shots from drifting frigate, the Admiral Grigorovich, which I like to say because it sounds good. Front page of the Daily Mail, Putin opens fire in the Channel. Really? Retired British couple's terrifying drama as Russian warship aims warning shots at their yacht while they sail to France. Well, it'd be nice if they'd actually fired a warning shot over the dinghies that were arriving yesterday, because guess what? 700 people came yesterday on dinghies. This is the day after the Ashford Labour Party down in Kent actually put out a missive in which they said, we've stopped the boats, nobody's been coming here for a week. And of course, you know why nobody's been coming here for a week. Not because they don't like coming here, but because the winds and the tides have been in the wrong direction. And so they don't come when it's too dangerous. When there's I think it's anything more than a force 4, as they call it in shipping terms, they don't sail because it's too dangerous, right? Good day, Mike from Australia, says Cruiser. Thank you very much indeed. So listen, I'm not buying this Russian nonsense, right? How about this? The Sun. Vlad fires on Brit OAPs in Channel. No, he doesn't. Wilhelmina says, Mike, that's a really nice coloured suit. Thank you, Wilhelmina. Great. Wilhelmina Graham. Yeah. Why would Russia want to invade this pile of doo-doo, honestly?
It's very true.
Yeah, I mean, honestly. Yeah, but this is what I would tell you and regard as a complete and utter crock of crap, right? Man from Kerno agrees, more crap from this government. You know, Alan 71, Jane 69. That's Alan Kelvey and Jane 69 were on a yacht shot at by the naval crew. No, they weren't shot at, okay? It's now emerging that apparently it was quite foggy in the Channel. This whole business happened around about 20 miles south of the Isle of Wight, okay? Which apparently is technically the English Channel. But the people who were on the Russian vessel were worried, apparently, that they were drifting and that they sort of lost power in some respect, right? And so what they did was what any ocean-going ship maritime captain would do, basically, which was to send a warning sign. It's a bit like firing a flare, right? To say, by the way, we're here, just be careful that you don't run into us, right? This from Jammy Horse. The Russians only issued a normal maritime warning to the yacht. The media would have you thinking World War III had started. 2 degrees shift is not enough to confirm they'd heard the collision warning. Well, that's right. The Admiral Grigorovich, I mean, you should have seen Sky News yesterday, and even GB News were getting very, very wet in the groin area about it all. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that. But they were getting very moist, going, you know, look at this. Here's Vladimir Putin boarding this vessel, right? The Grigorovich, which is an armed Krivak V-class frigate, apparently. And here he is. This proves that this is part of the massive Russian fleet of ghost ships that are sailing around the world, basically arming themselves and causing all sorts of problems. I just don't buy it, right? I'm going to appear at the CPAC conference coming up very shortly in July, which is a very austere and interesting event at which I'm going to be speaking about the problem with the media in this country and also in the world. And this is a great example of what's wrong with it. Because Putin has not opened fire in the Channel, according to the Daily Mail. The Russian warship has not fired over a yacht in the Channel, according to the Times. Vlad has not fired on Brit OAPs in the Channel. It's literally cobblers, right? There's more important stories to talk about, and we've got more important people to talk to as well, including, of course, our favourite barrister, Mr. Steven Barrett, who I think is here. Steven, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Glad to have you back.
Good to have you. Good to see you. I watched your performance last week with great interest. It was fabulous. Really, really brilliant. I don't know if you agree with me. This whole kind of, hysteria over an incident in the Channel, which, as many incidents happen probably on quite a regular basis, would normally go completely unregistered. I used to find this whenever there was a plane crash, back in the days when there was a lot of plane crashes, the very next day, every newspaper, of which my job was to be at one of them, would do a whole series of stories about near misses at Heathrow Airport. Because guess what? There are near misses at Heathrow Airport pretty much every day, because it's a very busy airport. But only when the focus of the media is on it does it become a story. Similarly, I suspect that this kind of a thing happens quite often. The fact that it's a Russian vessel has them all, getting the knickers in a twist, talking about, we're practically, DEFCON 5 or something. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, I think the more interesting thing about the story is that the Russian military vessel was terrified of a civilian British yacht. I mean, if we can, so if that means that we can just, if we ever need to go to war with Russia, we'll just send some of our recreational vessels their way, and their entire navy will flee.
This is a dad's army on the water.
That would be quite useful to us, given that we don't really have that big a military at the moment. So perhaps if we could send some recreational vessels. I'll be going to the Henley Traditional Boat Festival later this year, and perhaps we can use that as a military staging platform. There's a lovely old steamer and a paddle steamer, but perhaps that will take down an aircraft carrier or something. That is the more interesting question. I mean, quite what Russia is doing, and this idea of the ghost fleet, I don't buy at all. We can obviously track every vessel on the planet. We have satellites now. We don't live in the 50s.
Right.
We can obviously see where any ship is at any time, probably down to you and me in a rowboat on a lake somewhere could probably be tracked from space. So this idea that there's a shadow fleet is itself literally absurd.
Yeah.
What seems to be going on is that Western nations are dependent upon Russian oil, whether they like to admit it or not, because Western nations, us included, have self-harmed by doing things like not drilling our own oil. Yeah. And so we and gas, and so we're dependent on them, and yet we somehow pretend that it's somehow their fault that we're still buying their stuff. I mean, the EU is funding Russia whilst Russia is fighting the war in Ukraine, which the EU and we are also funding. The entire thing is a massive con. And we just need to go back to basic honest government, because our governments across the West, but particularly in the UK, have tied themselves up in so many lies now that it just nothing makes any sense at all. And we just need to return. I think we need to reset. Like Starmer's talking about an EU reset. It's like, no, we need a UK reset.
Yes.
This country has absolutely lost its way on so many basic things that we just need to get a grip. But I suppose we should take pride in the fact that not spring chickens on a recreational yacht can terrify the Russian Navy. And if we just need that plucky British spirit, then we can clearly take them all whenever the time comes. Perhaps we should get a rowboat, Mike, and prepare for war.
Well, I mean, many people would say that our finest moment was Dunkirk, when all the people took to their own boats and went across the channel to bring soldiers back away from the dangers of the dreaded Nazi invading force. But the thing about it's a very good point you make about the misinformation, the disinformation, the trust levels of what we now have in government. Because every time I see Starmer now, where particularly he gets out and pulls himself up to his full height of sort of 5'1.5", and declares that, this misinformation is damaging, people are trying to cause division. And, the only misinformation is coming from Downing Street. This is a guy who tells lies, even to his own cabinet members, to wit, John Healey, the Secretary of State for Defence, who he promised he was going to give more money to, then pulled the rug from him and said, actually, no, I'm not going to give any more money. One of the funniest stories this morning, I find, on the front page of the Times, is that even Ed Miliband now, the world's most useless individual, doesn't even take his calls. He basically is ghosting the Prime Minister. And apparently Starmer, because he's so useless, keeps trying to ring him, and he keeps not taking the call. And I mean, that pretty much sums up the government for you, doesn't it? Prime Minister's on the phone, tell him I'm busy.
Well, I wouldn't take Keir Starmer's call, and he's not even a prime minister in name only. He's just a joke at this point. He's a sort of stain of a prime minister. He's not really there. He's just not yet gone. Nobody can take this man seriously. I find it. I sort of pity all of the people that will come into contact with him in the next few days. He spends an awful lot of time in primary schools, so presumably a lot of teachers will have to sort of shake his hand and pretend to be impressed that he's there. But he's a nothing part at this point.
Yeah.
He's gone beyond any sort of credibility. I've speculated with you for a long time that he has a humiliation fetish. So presumably this is the apex of his delight, because he is simply nothing.
Right.
He is
well, it's a great word, isn't there? This has come into our parlance of recent sort of months and weeks, which is a nothing burger. That's what he is.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Americans are very useful at giving us handy new phrases. And this, I mean, Keir Starmer he's not only the worst prime minister of my lifetime, or possibly of the modern age. He's just nothing. There is nothing to him. Although I have to say, Mike, I genuinely believe that if you dyed his hair and put Andy Burnham's glasses on him, then we wouldn't be able to tell the difference between him and Andy Burnham. So I do think it's going to be mildly hilarious if on Friday Andy Burnham is elected, and then we have this prospect of Andy Burnham as a replacement Keir Starmer. It's like replacing Keir Starmer with Keir Starmer. It's just going to be absolute. And I'm weirdly delighted.
Keir Starmer with eyebrows.
And wearing mascara. But the entire thing is just going to be deeply entertaining from our point of view. Obviously, the nation will suffer.
Yes.
And, economy. I mean, and we need to talk more about this. I'm not sure it's cutting through, but business after business after business after business is suffering.
Yes.
Jobs are going.
Yes.
What they are doing is unbelievable. It's that quote from, I think it was Pat McFadden, who's supposed to be on the Prime Minister's side, who said that every meeting I go to, all they do is talk about how we can tax more in order to give more benefits. Well, that process, if your listeners and viewers need to be told this, and I'd be very surprised if they need to be told this, that is not sustainable. Just so you know, you can't just keep maxing your credit cards forever. You will eventually go bankrupt. That is inevitable.
Yeah, it is a truism. Well, I was just saying to Pooch this morning, I was at the weekend, I had to go and pick up my son and his mother from a train station over near Eastbourne, where I hadn't been for a while. And I drove past a really, really lovely country pub that we used to go to when my kids were a bit smaller. And it's shut down. And it's like, it's all boarded up, there's nothing going on. It's not as if, it's quiet. It's just not there anymore. And I thought to myself, imagine all the kind of, 16, 17-year-old kids who would have got a job working in the kitchen, or, picking up dirty glasses, cleaning up ashtrays as they would have done in years gone by. The local community that would meet there and discuss how useless the government are. All of those things that the country pub is kind of famous for, it's just gone. And that's probably multiplied by 1 million all up and down the country.
Yeah, my local's 100 yards down the road, and it's gone. We really do need, because they're very good at distracting us with this nonsense.
Right.
And much more fundamental to our actual lives is the fact that all these jobs are going. Supermarkets are complaining that they're losing jobs and stores. They're threatening things. We're losing major high street brands and high street chains. We've lost ceramic making. We've lost steel making. We've lost the capacity to be an independent country. And it's just an absolute disgrace. And all of it comes back, Mike. All of it circles back to, it's not just, let's start with the basics. Too many taxes, too many laws, but the real killer is not enough energy.
Yeah.
Why on earth Ed Miliband is allowed to not only not give us energy, but concrete over wells? That needs to be viewed in the future as a criminal act against the United Kingdom. We need energy. I don't know about you, Mike, but when it's winter, I need to have the heating on. It's not an optional thing. If I look to have a meal of pasta at the end of the day, I need to be able to boil that water.
Yes.
We need energy. We need
right.
it. And they are denying
this ludicrous idea that some people like Ed Miliband have that, you don't really need to put your heating on, you just put an extra jumper on. Well, if I wanted to live in a bloody cave, I would have been born in a previous century. I don't wish to live in a cave. I don't wish to live like some kind of, prehistoric man, Mogadon man or whatever the hell you want to call it. We have got a very successful and a very sophisticated economy in this country, and I would like to take advantage of it, and I don't mind paying for it as long as it's not ludicrously expensive.
Well, if I lived in a cave, I wouldn't have to pay council tax. I appear to be paying council tax and not being allowed to have cheap and free available energy.
Yeah. And not only that, though, Stephen, you're also paying the council tax of about 15 other people as well, who are not paying their council tax because it's being supplied to them by the government.
Yeah, well, and again, the migrant men are such a symptom of where this country has completely lost its course and its understanding. Not why are we paying for these people would be question number one. But they are the migrant men that we pay an awful lot of money for, that we don't actually want, can't actually contribute anything to us. Let's be absolutely categorically honest about this. Those men who come on the dinghies, they are not going to ever really have any productive utility for our economy or our country. They're not engineers, they're not doctors, they don't have any useful skills, they don't seem to have any proclivity or desire to work.
No.
And a certain proportion of them, because I don't want to say all of them, and it's right that we don't say all of them, but a certain proportion of them are going to commit atrocities.
Yeah.
This is why every single day now there are rapes and murders and just atrocious crimes that we don't need. Why would we import this? And the only conclusion you can ultimately come to when you analyze somebody like Ed Miliband, and you analyze Keir Starmer, and you analyze Andy Burnham, because he's exactly like them, is that they must fundamentally hate the country. There's no other conclusion that I can rationally come to. I don't know how we're supposed to think anything else. They must hate the country. And otherwise, why are they so actively harming it?
Yes. And also, isn't it ironic that we've got Keir Starmer being willfully ignored by Donald Trump, the US president, and I think we've got a little clip that we can show you later on that, over in Evian, trying to purify himself and taking his wife with him, by the way. We've got a poll going on at the moment. Where shouldn't you take your wife to work? Because at the end of the day, I don't know why his wife is there. I'm sure she's a very pleasant woman. She doesn't look terribly happy when she sits next to him. But there they are, sort of bouncing around in Evian, shaking hands with people, hugging Vladimir Zelensky, hugging Emmanuel Macron and his wife. And you just think, why have you taken your wife? I wouldn't, and this is a very old-fashioned poll, by the way, because I'm not saying where would you take your partner. This is all about wives and husbands, right? And the poll so far is, where shouldn't you take your wife? The G7 summit, 2, to work, 3, to the pub with the lads, or 4, up the Eiffel Tower, as, obviously everybody has done. But isn't it ironic that there he is talking about the security of Western Europe, talking about how we have to collectively, gather ourselves to our full height so that we can protect ourselves against the Russians. Meanwhile, 700 migrants crossed the Channel yesterday in one day, the biggest number all year, right? So they're doing literally nothing to stop an invasion. We're watching it in real time as it's happening, and we're worried about the Russians.
Well, perhaps we could ask the Russians to fire on the dinghies.
Well, that might be helpful.
This is pathetic. It is absolutely risible. We are being invaded. That there is no other term for the movement of a large number of military-aged young men into our country against our wishes. I don't know any other terminology to use other than invasion, and we're paying for it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make this nonsense up.
You
And
really
again, I
can't.
return to this idea that they simply must hate this country. There is really no other rational thought or conclusion that I can come to. They simply must hate the nation, or they're so consumed by hatred of themselves that they've just forgotten about the country. But what on earth they think they're doing? What motivated them to go into politics? You know, what on earth are they there for? Is it just for the free cash and the jollies? And I think, Mike, what I would flag up on people's radar is that I think a lot of the future is going to be consumed by discussions about property development by the public sector and quite where all the money went.
Yeah.
And I think that's just something that will become a scandal in years to come, I think.
Yes, I think there is so much to ask in those kinds of areas in terms of where the public money wastage has gone, because there is so much of it. I mean, we've been talking about, procurement for the defence department and whether or not we can put more money into defence, and it's shone a bit of a light on recent times on these government departments which waste so much money. I mean, there's a story that we didn't actually touch upon yesterday, but which we might do a bit more on today, where this Nature England, I think is the name of the quango, which decided in its wisdom that it would be a great idea to slaughter all of the ponies in the West Country, down sort of near the New Forest or whatever it is, on the grounds that they wanted to rewild it. The Dartmoor ponies, that's right. They wanted to rewild it, and the government actually had to come out and say, actually, we're not going to do it. But what I discovered in my sort of inquiries into the story was that the Department of Environment, Fisheries and Food, or whatever it's called now, DEFRA, has got millions of these quangos who are given billions and billions of pounds a year to do literally the square root of bugger all, to come up with these recommendations. They've hired more people in the past 10 years than used to work in the entire department as a whole, And I'm just reading this morning that British taxpayers are now subsidising the energy bills of French households, with payments expected to surge under Keir Starmer's new EU reset deal. It could cost us up to £16 billion. So not only are you paying for your own, water to boil so that you can make your pasta, you're paying for a bunch of families in France to be able to boil their own potatoes and then make their dauphinoise.
We are just a pathetic country now.
Yeah.
There's no real getting around this. I don't think there's much intellectualization to go on. I'm not sure there's much thinking that needs to occur. All you need to do is to conclude that how we are now is wrong and it must stop. There is no sort of greater tinkering. People. I think the country's used to sort of 30 years of pretending everything's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And what we really need to do is a little tinkle here and a little tweak there. And that's simply not true now. Everything is fundamentally, structurally broken.
Yeah.
We cannot keep spending vast amounts of taxpayers' money, firstly on the French. I don't know why the French keep getting vast amounts of taxpayers' money, but they do. So
they're very good at it.
Stop giving any money to France.
Yeah.
Secondly, on these quangos and these unaccountable bodies that hide behind the word independent and actually stand for the word unaccountable.
Yes.
That's what it means. It doesn't mean independent, doesn't mean better. It doesn't mean good. It just means unaccountable. It means you won't be able to get them to force them to do their job. You can't actually make them do any work. And these completely ridiculous bodies that come up with things like, oh, let's massacre the ponies.
Yeah.
Why are we paying any of this? If we sack them all tomorrow, would any of us notice any difference to our country at all? And I think we should have a very strong view that we should sack a lot of these people, because once we sack huge numbers of public sector workers, all of a sudden the budget becomes much more balanced. We're not spending money on schools and hospitals and doctors and the army and guns and bullets, things we need.
Yeah.
We're spending money on employing people who come up with ridiculous ideas like let's slaughter the ponies.
Yes.
Well, let's sack all the let's slaughter the pony people, and then let's see if we can't suddenly afford schools, hospitals, doctors, guns, bullets, and helicopters. The
Quite.
stuff we actually need.
Yes, and before I get accused of inciting violence, I should give you this sort of pre-warning. This is obviously a metaphorical phrase, but what I'm saying is, why don't we slaughter all the civil servants instead of the ponies, and we might be in a better place. The other place, of course, where all the money is going is on disability benefits, which, according to the Daily Mail this morning, says 40% now are claiming mental health problems, and the number on disability benefits has hit 4 million. Right? That's 4 million people. Whenever we talk about this, we always get a slight backlash from people who say, look, I'm disabled, I need the money, I get that, it's fine. I'm not suggesting that everybody who's on disability benefits shouldn't be, but there's clearly far too many people on it. And according to another piece in The Sun today, I think anxiety benefits now accounts for 500,000 people who are claiming benefits because they're anxious. And it's just not sustainable. Again, you're paying not only for the French to have their Dauphinoise potatoes, but you're paying for the chips of about, 15 other families as well. Here.
Well, the Fabian Marxists would claim that they have built a utopia. And let's look at this utopia, because is anybody actually happy? Those 500,000 people with anxiety are not happy. And yes, they're a massive drain on the public purse. Are they living the life of Riley? No, they're not. And are their days full of joy? No, they're not. So we get this double feedback where we're paying, the public are paying money that we can't afford to people who are not actually enjoying that. I mean, I'd always feel better if they were complete fraudsters and they were sort of getting 3 million a year and then they were just, going on the lash. I feel a bit better if that were the circumstance, but it's not. This is the dull, dreary grind down of socialism, Mike, where 500,000 people are so depressed, so anxious, so just broken, shattered as a human being, that they have to live off pennies from the state that the state can't really afford. The whole thing is just this grim reinforcing circle with sort of Liz Kendall and Keir Starmer at the top of it, somehow, taking private planes and enjoying life whilst the rest of us are just ground down, whilst our pubs close, whilst there are no jobs for young people, while our young people can't buy houses, while life cannot move on and they cannot get married and have children. The whole grimness of this Fabian Marxist, utopia. It's not heaven, is it? They've made hell. That's what they've made. And Mike, we have to snap out of it with a fundamental restructuring of the state. And then, I want those 500,000 people to deal with their anxiety, heal themselves. I would encourage more people. I'm just going to say it, Mike. More people need to rediscover the value of religion. It's a very great assistance with mental health as a human being. I don't really care which religion you pick, but I'm a Christian, but I just want to encourage religion generally. I want those 500,000 people living productive lives and working, not just to reduce the cost of the state, but because I think they will have a better day.
Yeah.
If they are
Absolutely.
off work today on benefits, they're going to have a grim day today. I absolutely guarantee that they're not going to have any fun today. If they get a job and they get up in the morning and they go to work and they achieve something, they will have a much better day.
Yeah.
And when the right articulate this idea, and I want people in work because I think it's good for them. I think it increases their self-esteem, it increases their confidence, it gives them a purpose, and it gives them more money so that they can have a better life.
Yes.
And that's what I want. And why? How did
and guess what else it does? It also stimulates the economy. It gives them the ability to buy things, to get services done, to get other people employed to do things for them. So it's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't understand how the left have managed to carry, because what I've just articulated, Mike, is what I would consider the classic right-wing position. And I don't understand how the left have portrayed this as evil, as though if I could talk to those 500,000 people who are off work on anxiety benefits and just explain to them, I want to improve your life, I want your life to be better, and I genuinely think that will come if you get a job. That is what I want for you. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to take away your measly, pathetic benefits for no reason. I just don't want you trapped in this awful, grim life that you are trapped in. And that's why when I talk about we must free the economy so that it creates the jobs that those people can then have. What we're living in, this bureaucracy, this regulatory world, this overtaxed world, it's just grim, Mike. It's not nice. It's not kind. They're not pleasant people. Keir Starmer's obviously not a nice man, okay? Nobody can think that. Surely nobody can think that. They're just control freaks. But that has left 500,000 of our fellow citizens languishing, they will have a rubbish day today. Today will be rubbish.
Well, I can tell you from my own personal experience, not very many times in my life have I not had anything to do. But, last October, when I was not suspended by News UK, and I was left sort of languishing around waiting to see what they were going to do, it was awful. I'd wake up in the morning and I didn't have anything to do. I would sort of go, what do I do now? I would sort of shuffle from room to room and go, well, I'll go over here or I'll go over there. There's nothing better than getting up for me at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting in the shower, getting dressed, getting in the car, coming to work, doing this show, talking to brilliant people like yourself. It's life enhancing. I would never want to do nothing in my world because it doesn't suit me. It's not good for you. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your physical health. It's literally a really, really bad thing. And so, you're absolutely right. We have to change the whole society's sort of outlook here to say that also how preposterous is it and how kind of condescending is it to say that because you've got some kind of disability, whether it's physical, mental, that you can't do anything? That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It really is ridiculous. And I think we need to actively bang this drum and get it across to people that we're not trying to steal their meager and pathetic benefits. We want to actually improve their lives. When my child was very small, before COVID, we used to go to an M&S, and in that M&S we had a chap who worked there called Mark, and Mark was deaf and non-communicative, is what I suspect the modern phrasing is, but that's because he was disabled. But the fact that he worked on those tills and got to see people, every time he saw my child, he because he couldn't articulate words, but he made sounds of delight, and he grinned from ear to ear, and he was an absolute pleasure to see. I mean, and as a single dad who didn't get a lot of support, I used to bounce with joy if the idea that we'd see Mark. And I think the fact that he worked the tills in M&S immeasurably improved his life. It certainly improved my life and made me happy. And I just think we need to get this idea that a disability is a thing to deal with, like anxiety. It's not. I'm not saying it's not real. Of course, it's real. I just want to find a way for these people to lead better lives. And I think that Mark, his conditions, his disabilities were so severe, he could quite clearly have just sat at home all day if he wanted to. But I think sitting on the tills at M&S was better for him. It gave him a better variety of life, access to people. Babies came into his life. And let's face, I mean, I don't know if I've talked to you about this, but I'm baby mad. So if I see a baby, I will just smile all the way. I just think the world's better. And I know what you mean.
I'm constantly, if little kids love me, right? Little kids and animals love me. And so whenever I'm on a bus or something like that, if I see particularly a small child, I just make faces at them, sometimes like that or whatever. And they love it. And it's fantastic, it's very entertaining. But again, it's about going out and mingling and coexisting with other people, sitting in your house all day, watching Netflix and demanding payment for the fact that you can't go out is nonsensical and bad for you.
It's not a happy life. It's not a good life. It's a waste. And I think we need to. I think the right wing has suffered decades of and done it to itself. By the way, it was a member of the right wing, or allegedly a member of the right wing, Theresa May, who called the right wing the nasty party. That it's indulged in this idea, but I'm not nasty, Mike. I don't think I've ever been nasty to anybody. Right. And I don't want to hurt upset or denigrate any of those 500,000 people with anxiety. I just want them to lead a better life. And I think they will lead a better life if they perhaps look into religion and perhaps look into things that might lessen their anxiety, and then get a job and have a sense of self-worth and achievement. That's all I want for them. You know that, and I really reject this nasty label. And given how this current left wing is exposing itself, it's trying to bring back the mass state killing bill. You know, that's what will the left offer you? 500,000 anxiety sufferers. They'll offer you suicide.
Yeah.
Well, that just, I mean, I don't want a single one of those 500,000 people to end their life in suicide at all. You know, and the idea that the state will just provide it for you because, oh, you're not good enough. It's just like, no. Every single human
and this is the benevolent. This is the benevolent state they call themselves, right? We are benevolent. We're so benevolent that we're going to help you to end your own life. Brilliant. You know,
so kind we're going to kill you. We're so kind we're going to kill you. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, Stephen, as ever, brilliant to talk to you.
I don't know. I've lost you.
I think it was somebody called. It was a bloke anyway who thought you were cute.
Chris.
It was Chris. Yeah, there you go. So
Get him to send in pictures.
Anyway, Stephen, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Great to talk to you as ever with brilliance and great forethought. Stephen's right to say that, you know, we should embrace people who are in disabilities situations, people who are saying they're anxious, they can't work. You know, give them jobs, let them work, make them do something, because that's where, you know, happiness lies. Stephen, thanks very much indeed. Pooch, I think what we need to do before we go to the news is just play, because of the poll that we've got about where should you not take your wife. Number 3, Starmer and Zelensky. I think you might see Starmer and Mrs. Starmer here.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, lovely to see you again.
Yeah.
Which was, well, we saw you in Downing Street after the...
Yeah.
The production quality, they're spending so much money on it.
Yeah, I know, it's rubbish, isn't it? And you know, I'm sorry, the opening section of that, and we'll play it some more later on, the opening segment of Starmer and Mrs. Starmer going to greet Zelensky. So Starmer gives him a hug, she doesn't. What's she doing there? Sorry, you know, this is not a sexist moment here I'm having, but we've got a poll, and the question on the poll is, where shouldn't you take your wife? 1, the G7 summit. 2, to work. 3, to the pub with the lads. 4, up the Eiffel Tower. Will Geddes is here. There's absolutely no connection to those questions and you. But you know, well, you've had several wives, I think, haven't you? Have you taken them all up the Eiffel Tower?
I like the comparison between the G7 and night out at the pub with the lads.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, anyway, we'll come back to that, because first we should get some news. Should we get some news?
Yeah, quickly.
Oh, what?
All the ladies can thank me for telling Will to be in a t-shirt, not a jacket.
Yeah. All the ladies. Isn't that a Beyonce song? All the ladies.
Yes, I
This
think
is
so.
some kind of Beyonce song. Anyway, yeah. Listen, you get all the fan mail after.
Right.
You know.
I think your previous guest does. I mean, he's been.
Stephen does. Yeah, he does. How's Edward Hughes today? And how's his marriage going, by the way?
Well, let's,
Hey?
he's still on the wagon anyway.
All right, let's get some news.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your Wednesday bulletin. Tensions with Russia escalated as a Russian warship fired warning shots near a British yacht in the English Channel. A retired couple described the surreal incident, with shots fired close to their vessel amid heightened UK-Russia friction. In politics, Labour faces internal pressure. Ex-Defence Secretary John Healey and senior figures criticised defence spending plans as insufficient, warning of operational cuts. Health Secretary Wes Streeting signalled readiness for a potential leadership contest. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a sweeping ban on social media for under-16s to protect children, while committing UK support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz with allies. Other stories include ongoing defence and migration debates, plus Prince George set to attend Eton, a day dominated by security, politics and child protection. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Edward Hughes.
You're quite well.
I've got a note here. Hang on. What's his name? Every time you go to Stephen's solo, I couldn't hear Mike, and so Stephen was sat there not hearing anything. Well, you wouldn't have known that, would you?
No, you wouldn't have known that.
Anyway, we'll see if we can fix that. But anyway, Will Geddes is here. Very good morning, sir.
Morning, sir. Nice to see you back from your holes.
Yes.
You look rested. You look
Very rested. Yeah, I had a great time.
zenned out.
Thank God Pooch saw it, because he was the one that made me go, basically, because I didn't. I was like, I can't go on holiday. I'm obviously, indispensable. I can't possibly disappear because the whole edifice will collapse.
Yeah,
And
Russell held the fort
nothing.
very, very well.
Russell was
I
brilliant.
came in. He very kindly invited me
Yes,
in, and Pooch did as well.
And the numbers were great. Everybody, I want to thank everybody for still watching the show, even though I wasn't here. And this week, of course, I don't know if you've had a chance to see the studio next door.
I have.
But
I've just had the guided
Russell
tour.
Quirk started. He's on again today at 10 o'clock, followed by Mark Littlewood with the World Cup show. So we're really going places. It's great.
It is, mate. It's going great guns, and I'm so pleased that you managed to get away, because you've had a pretty stressful last 6
It
months.
certainly
Let's
was
put it that
quite
way.
stressful. You've been on the journey with me
Oh,
from
yes.
day one, right? Will was one of the first people I rang. We've sort of told the story, but not quite. But we will one day.
We
tell
will
the whole
one day
story.
tell the whole
Tell
story.
the whole story.
The whole story,
The whole
nothing
truth.
but the truth.
Nothing
exactly.
but the truth. But yeah, absolutely right.
Which we pretty much have already. But yes, this is a bit like Riku. There'll be the narrative that's out there,
Yes,
and the
absolutely.
reality of what's actually
Absolutely.
going on.
And hopefully you're going to be taking part in some way, shape or form.
Pooch
in that new
is strong-arming
studio.
me into this.
Yeah, you've got it. Because you've got. I mean, people say to me, Will Geddes must have some stories. And I
Or-
know that there
Hey,
are some stories you
I
can't
got some
tell.
shadowy friends that I'd love to invite on, who will give some really. I think what I would like to do, if any of the viewers have seen the Sean Ryan podcast, I don't want to really go down the conspiracy theory sort of rabbit holes, because that all gets a bit mad. But I do want to bring on some really interesting people who really work behind the curtain, that I've known for many, many years, that I've met in weird and wonderful parts of the world that we can't even remember where we met, but have been doing some interesting stuff. And just because I think the joy is, and I mean, I mentioned the Riku thing in jest, but I know you had someone on earlier this week talking about it.
Yeah.
But the issue about what the narrative is, what we're being told by the government and by the mainstream media, is now really getting uncovered.
It is.
And we're being shown that manipulation is very much at play here.
Yeah.
We're being told what the narrative should be, how we should react, and being manipulated accordingly. So if you say anything about illegal immigrants, you are immediately far right.
Yeah.
And now we know this has been deliberately driven. So the joy of your show.
And that also applies. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Because you were about to say something nice about my show. So
I was
interrupting you at the wrong moment. But it's also. I mean, we're going to come back to the front pages today. This kind of narrative that things are happening when they're really not. I mean, this is not. I mean, the front page of the Daily Mail today ludicrously says Putin opens fire in the Channel. It's just not right. It's rubbish, right?
It's nonsense.
This turns out to be a situation where it would appear that a Russian frigate, which may or may not, or should or should not have been in the Channel, was drifting in some way, shape, or form, and they sort of sent out what effectively was a flare or a warning to a boat nearby, saying we might hit you, so be careful.
Yeah.
How is that Putin opening fire in the Channel?
Absolutely. But why isn't Rupert Lowe's rape inquiry report the front pages of every single paper today?
Right.
It's not even the reports actually
not
come
only
out.
is it not on the front pages, but it's not anywhere else inside the paper either.
And the argument could also be said, and I'm thinking of bringing a few sort of old shaky boat friends onto my show when it happens. We saw the Royal Marines doing what the Royal Marines do best, the bootnecks doing best, when they did that interdiction on the Russian boat vessel,
but again,
which
the
was part of the
timing
Shadow
that
Fleet.
was a bit curious, wasn't it?
It is curious, but also the question's got to be, okay, we've got lots of amazingly capable bootnecks who are out there doing these interdictions. Why aren't we doing this on some of those dinghies in the Channel?
Right. Well, I mean, again, I was saying this earlier in the first half hour of the show with Steven Barrett. We've got Keir Starmer over there with his wife, Mrs. Starmer. I don't know what she's doing there, as I said, at the G7, talking about the security of Western Europe. Meanwhile, yesterday, 700 migrants came across the Channel, the biggest single day number since the beginning of the year, right? So clearly, there's no impact being made whatsoever on the people smuggling gangs.
No.
There's no impact being made on these people who can come here whenever they feel like it. And meanwhile, we're talking about making sure that we can't be invaded by Russia. We're already being invaded.
We already
by
have
a load
been.
of other people.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And the other issue as well is how much has the MSM covered the riots in Geneva that have been going on for the last few days?
Well, they haven't at all.
Nobody's
I
heard
haven't
about
seen
that. Absolutely. I'll send over some video clips of what's been going on in Geneva.
So what has been going on in Geneva?
Basically, it's the protest against the G7. So
Yeah.
you've got a lot, but Geneva, it's interesting. You have this sort of chocolate watch country where it's a beautiful, beautiful, peaceful country, and it is generally. And I've got a lot of good friends who are over there. But there is this dark veil going on behind the scenes. There's a lot of crime in Geneva, for example. The prisons are very limited to who they can keep in there, so they'll turn them around. A lot of illegal immigrants getting in there. But you've also got a lot of protests against the G7.
Yeah.
And they've done amazingly well at trying to keep that very quiet.
Yeah, that is interesting, because one of the things I saw last week was that they were having a referendum, because they do an awful lot of referendums in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And this was about limiting the number of people that could be living in the country. They wanted to limit it to 10 million, which is apparently about 4 years away, or maybe 5. And eventually they actually voted it down and said, no, we don't want to limit it. But the other thing that happened there some years ago was that they, I think, legalised heroin.
Yes.
And loads of junkies went there from all over the world, because they were like, great, we can go to Switzerland and we can get free heroin, because it will be just handed out to us. And that caused massive problems. And again, you didn't really hear much about it.
No, and there's also the mayor of Amsterdam right now who is talking about legalising cocaine.
Oh, really?
So again, what the problem you're going to have here is you're going to have an influx, as you rightly say, Mike, you're going to get an influx of individuals, not only who are just going there for recreational purposes, but you've also got people who are going to be going there for criminal purposes to acquire that product. And we've seen the same thing in the United States with cannabis cards and people who are able to get it on prescription through shops. We already know there's a whole black market there, and the product that's being purchased there and then being traded off into other states.
Because that's the myth,
illegally.
isn't it? About if you legalise drugs, it does away with all the criminal activity.
No,
well, it doesn't actually.
No, it creates new streams.
Well, it creates new streams. One of the things, for example, that was created was the fentanyl problem in America, because as soon as they legalised marijuana in most states, particularly California, the people in Mexico who were shipping all the marijuana up to the US went, oh, blimey, well, we don't want marijuana anymore, we'll make something else. So they started making fentanyl, and they started making like fake heroin and artificial sort of cocaine and all sorts of uppers and downers and all the rest of it. So they just morphed into a different drug business, which was actually more dangerous than what they had been doing.
Well, there's an interesting aspect to that, and like I was saying, if we do this show, and although I said I don't want to run down the conspiracy rabbit holes, there's some very interesting aspects about the fentanyl embedding within drugs, and whether that's actually been done by criminals or it's been done by other agencies.
Oh, really? Well, that's a whole new can of worms, as they say, which we may or may not get into at another time. But that's really fascinating. Tell me more about what else has been going on in the world of defence, because, of course, we've seen, when I was away, you can't take a week off without yet another cabinet minister resigning. John Healey's gone. And in fact, should we play Pooch, John Healey's resignation speech? Because that's quite good. Number 5, I think that is.
Go for it.
And the decisions that we make in the months ahead will be judged by those who follow us. At this dangerous time, I see the current defence investment plans falling well short of what is required. A rise of 0.08% from next year to 2030, no date for reaching 3%, no path to 3.5%. By 2030, well over half of NATO members will be spending 3% or more. And when allies are looking for British leadership, we must not fall behind. When NATO needs European nations to step up, we must not fall short. Our adversaries don't follow timetables set by the Treasury. I appreciate how hard this is for Cabinet colleagues, and I'm very grateful to those who support what's required. But not all needs to be done by cutbacks elsewhere. There are credible ways of meeting the mid-term funding challenges, working multinationally, and as other nations in Europe are doing. that could allow us to protect the ability to deliver our Labour missions across government. Beyond this, Mr. Speaker, we need a bigger view of national security. It's not just the job for defence or the agencies. Every department has a part to play in national security and national resilience. From energy to transport to health. Security must run through the government like letters through a stick of rock. And security must be felt in the communities right across Britain, reversing long-term decline and bringing new jobs and new hope.
John Healey there, the former Secretary of State for Defence, sticking it to Keir Starmer in the Commons yesterday, basically saying, you know, it's not acceptable to make promises, as he did, to his own minister and his own Secretary of State, and then just reneging it.
It's not just that. There's the optics. I mean, who is doing the communications? I mean, they say Riku is, but who's actually doing the more direct communications for Keir Starmer? Because he's just coming across as an utter womble. I mean, you have this situation, the optics. Him, Mr. and Mrs. Starmer, with the Zelenskys. Rachel Reeves pledging $3 billion a year to the Ukraine. Donald Trump, who said on his recent visit, said, you guys have to step up and you need to start making your contribution because the US is making a far outweighted contribution to NATO. If we fall foul, I think he's absolutely right. If we fall foul of this, we are going to be really in a difficult position because I know what will happen. Trump will basically start leveraging more taxes against us and certainly on the imports. And I think we're going to have a massive problem. I mean, I don't know how... Starmer's like a kamikaze plane, isn't he? He's just on fire.
Well, I think the problem with Starmer and many Labour sort of apparatchiks and MPs and kind of advisors, they don't really understand the military. They don't really get it. No. They don't really like it. They feel it makes them feel a bit queasy, a bit uncomfortable. They don't really like the idea of using the military, you know, and they have no respect for them. I mean, look at what he's doing with the Northern Ireland veterans, you know, and people like Al Carnes was very uncomfortable about all of that. And some people say that Al Carnes is a possibility for the next Prime Minister. I don't think he is, by the way. No. But, you know, he's a military guy. He's a former Marine. You know, he knows his onions when it comes to military conflict and all that. But I just think that Starmer and those kind of left-wing Fabian types, it makes them feel a bit queasy to even talk about military.
Well, it's not sexy for them. That's the problem. It's not a sexy subject. And we've seen this with consecutive governments. We saw this with the Conservatives. And friends of mine who are still serving, they're turning around and simply saying, Will, the kit's getting worse. The recruitment drive, we know what happened with their recruitment ads where they're all woke and you know, PlayStation 1 minute, you know, on the battlefield the next. You know, just appealing to the wrong audience and sending the wrong messages. And those friends of mine who are in the military are turning around and saying, well, it's just embarrassing. Recruitment levels or application levels, I should say, for Special Forces is right down, really down. And those numbers are diminishing. And a lot of the guys who are in there, who are getting paid better than they would in their equivalent ranks in the regular army, are also seeing the monies they're going to get paid by people like me if they come into the private sector. So, I mean, in the same way as I had this in 2003 when we were operating in Iraq as a private military company, and we had a number of Special Forces, British Special Forces guys who were down there, and they were making a third of what my guys were making, and my guys were going, come across the wire, come and join us. And they had a massive deterioration of numbers. And we're going to see this again, because unless we take care of our military, and that's not, but also look at the recruitment. Who's going to join the military right now when you see how veterans are being treated in this country?
Exactly, because you know if you're in a military situation and you're asked to perform a task which may involve killing other people or may involve, you know, detaining other people, or
which generally will be the case.
Which will be the case if you're in a conflict zone, obviously. And you're then going to have one eye on what's going to happen when I get home. You know, am I going to get prosecuted? Is there going to be some investigation? A bit like the police now. You know, any firearms officer in the police doesn't want to fire their weapon. Because as soon as they do, they're under investigation, they're suspended, you know, their whole life is sort of picked through like some kind of horrific, you know, nightmare for them. And we've seen some of them being on the hook for sort of 2 or 3 years, not knowing whether they're going to have a job. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's bananas. And you've got, I mean, I know a lot of guys who are also in firearms teams, you know, whether that be in RASP or it be in the regular SO19 guys, you know, a lot of them are sort of hovering with their ticket as to whether they're going to hand it in for exactly the reasons you mentioned, Mike. And they're thinking to themselves, you know, what are we getting? The morale in the police, also, we've got to stop beating the police up generally for what's going on. There was a bit of footage that went out the other day on social media.
Yeah.
Some people may have seen with a father being apprehended and his 5-year-old boy screaming as the police officers were bundling the kid into the car. Now, a lot of people were like, what the hell are the police officers doing to the boy? Well, they were actually trying to protect the boy. But because everybody jumped on it and said it's police brutality, and again, be suspicious of what you see on social media. Who's financing it? Who's driving it?
Right.
You know, there are some really good spokespeople out there who are being manipulated as well, who are putting up product or content, which, to be honest, they may not necessarily know the full story behind. So
well, I had
we've got to be
yesterday.
cynical, Mark.
I was on Facebook yesterday.
That's why your channel's so good, mate, because it's really unfiltered, and the guests you have on, obviously the exception being me, are all really good, and they
far too modest.
They shoot from the hip.
I'm not having that. How about this from Pat? It says Starmer and all the Fabian commies want civil unrest, martial law, digital ID, and can then cancel elections. It's why he was put in post. Funnily enough, we had a guy on yesterday who was saying exactly that. Major Alex Watt. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I saw it actually. I was watching. Mike, I do watch religiously, even when I'm not invited on.
And he's an ex-colleague of Bob Stewart's.
Yeah,
you know, who's Colonel Bob Stewart out in Bosnia.
Colonel Bob.
Right, and so interesting guy. We'll get more from him as we go forward. Al Khan's did not vote against the prosecution of our veterans. No, I know that. No. Al Khan's talks a good job, but has become a sort of, you know, a poacher turned gamekeeper in some people's view when it comes to, you know, being a politician rather than being reliant on the soldiers. But to talk about some of the misinformation and some of the kind of... and
disinformation.
Shall we say disinformation and also just... you know, infiltration, if you like, of social media. I mean, I was on Facebook just pottering about yesterday, and I get an awful lot of Rupert Lowe related type stuff, right? And an awful lot of it was coming from, I knew places certainly that I don't follow on Facebook, things that, you know, organisations or particular individuals, and when you look them up, they've all got American phone numbers. They're American organisations, right, who are pushing Restore Britain. Now, I know I've got nothing against Rupert Lowe, got nothing against Restore Britain, but there's something wrong if all of the kind of what you might call, you know, the sort of campaigning literature, if you like, on Facebook is being run from America.
Yes.
There's something wrong with that, isn't it?
But that's massive things that are massively wrong. I mean, it's about foreign...
And it's like they're not even hiding it. You just have to look up the area code on the, you know, please call this number. Yeah. And it's a number in Illinois
number or
Michigan
212 or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, foreign interference into elections, into the sentiment within a country. Again, we're in dangerous times, Mike. We really are, and this is why shows. And again, I reiterate this, and you know, viewers can say what they like about me saying this, but the joy of your show is it's totally unfiltered, and also it's verified in terms of its due diligence. You guys will question the integrity or the validity of a particular issue. You'll call me out on stuff as well and say, we'll back that up.
And we're not bankrolled by any, you know, shadowy organisations.
No,
you know, we don't have any money coming in from any other country. You know, it's a very, what you see is what
purist.
You get here.
Yeah, it's purist. And the problem certainly with the MSM, and you and I both know this, because I mean, I've worked both, you know, in front of the camera as a guest. Yeah. And, you know, one of my favourite ones, you know, John Soper, you remember him? Yeah, the BBC. I remember when I was, like I said, I was working in Iraq. And the first question out of Soper's mouth to me on one of his interviews on the news channel, the BBC News channel, was, "So, Mr. Geddes, you're running mercenaries in Iraq." So I went, define mercenaries.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. It's incredible, isn't it? And that's one of the things. I mean, I'm making this speech, which I'm preparing because I've never actually spoken for this long. I've been asked to make a speech at the CPAC conference.
Oh, amazing!
Down in Canary, by the O2, the Intercontinental Hotel, in July. And I said to them, you know, how long do you want me to speak for? And they went 45 minutes. And I went, what? Okay then. I mean, I can do a 4-hour radio show for you.
You'll be fine.
I've never written an actual speech. So, but they want me to talk about the media and the the kind of the twisted nature of it, and as it's now become, which would be great because it's my favourite subject.
I think 45 minutes is going to be limiting me. I think you could
be,
talk for a lot longer than that.
But when you see the way that the media now operates, like for example, all these page ones about Vladimir firing missiles in the Channel, and you think World War III is about to happen, and you see the way the BBC ignores stories and covers other stories, and the reason why people don't trust the mainstream media anymore is because they've completely and utterly sold out to the sort of left-wing ideology that they all purport to support because they've all been to university and they're all very clever and they're all terribly smart. This is Times Radio, and all they do is tell you how clever they are. Unfiltered, brilliant, witty. It's like, well, if you were all those things, you wouldn't have to keep saying it.
And then you get the pinnacle of intellect, and you have someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg, who I adore.
Who's brilliant.
I think he's brilliant, and I mean, and I know he's been on the show with you as well,
and he loves what we're doing.
He's interviewed me a few times, and I have to say he's asked me some really precise questions, and so I've like, I've got to be on my game.
And that's the thing, that, you don't have to be the John Sopels of this world or the Emily Maitnesses. You don't have to claim to be a journalist. Jacob Rees-Mogg's not a journalist, but he's better than most journalists at interviewing people because he's a very clever man and he knows things. And an awful lot of journalism these days is based upon the knowledge of nothing. And it's just a kind of an idea that they've all got that you must be a bad guy because you're in the military or, you've worked in some dodgy places, you must have some dark secrets, you must be being paid.
I do actually,
Well, that is true, that bit
but
is
I'm saving them for the show.
Absolutely. But do you know what I mean? It's like they just assume all this stuff. And you can't trust anything they say.
No, and that's the thing. But I don't know whether you caught it. Did you see the Murdoch's documentary on Netflix? The most recent one that came out. So, I mean, I think that's really good viewing in these current times about how the press are manipulating the politics and how they're skewing the stories accordingly. And what they put on the front pages is sometimes misdirection. And I think we've all come to realise this since COVID, that it is a case of, okay, look over here, we're going to wave the puppet over here to distract you from what's going on over there.
Well, I find it really interesting because it doesn't often happen anymore as much as it used to. But, every single front page this morning, the big page, the splash, as we used to call it, the front page lead, is all the same. They're all talking about this incident in the Channel, which to me is
a nothing story.
It's a nothing burger.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
I totally agree. So it's a nothing burger.
And the viewers of us who are watching us now are saying, actually, you know what? You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's a BS story. Why is everybody talking about it?
It's a two-line byline. That should have been on page 6.
Yeah. I know. I'm being told we're running late.
Sorry, mate.
How late are we running?
7 minutes.
7 minutes? Crikey. All right.
Yeah, know what I'm like, Pooch.
Who's waiting?
Shut me up.
Lionel Zeta's waiting.
Oh, right. And we already cancelled him once yesterday, so he's probably getting paranoid. All right, Lionel, listen, we'll come to you in a second. Stand by your beds. Do a bit of news first, shall we?
Yeah.
With Edward Hughes.
I'm Edward Hughes with your Wednesday bulletin. Tensions with Russia escalated as a Russian warship fired warning shots near a British yacht in the English Channel. A retired couple described the surreal incident, with shots fired close to their vessel amid heightened UK-Russia friction. In politics, Labour faces internal pressure. Ex-Defence Secretary John Healey and senior figures criticise defence spending plans as insufficient, warning of operational cuts. Health Secretary Wes Streeting signalled readiness for a potential leadership contest. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a sweeping ban on social media for under-16s to protect children, while committing UK support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz with allies. Other stories include ongoing defence and migration debates, plus Prince George set to attend Eton, a day dominated by security, politics and child protection. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Hi there, Mark Littlewood here, in Mike Graham's seat. But as of Monday the 15th of June, I'm going to be in a different seat for UK Live, giving you everything you need to know about the World Cup. Is it finally coming home after 60 years? I'll be broadcasting from the beautiful town of Calidore in Mallorca, which has vast numbers of sports bars for me to watch every second of every single match. We're going to have guests, chats, and don't worry if you don't really understand football or if you're not interested in it. This is going to be a sideways take on the biggest sporting tournament that mankind has ever seen. We'll never be offside but you might sometimes see me bombing down the right wing. We'll be looking at what's happened in the previous night's games, what's going to happen in that evening's games, and we're going to be profiling as many of the countries as we can. There's 48 of them in this year's World Cup. What you need to know about not just France and Argentina and Spain, but Curacao, Haiti, the Cape Verde Islands, the long shot minnows. Be there from noon weekdays on UK Live, joining me for a World Cupper. See you then.
The revolution will be televised. The revolution will be televised.
And there it is, of course. You've got Mark Littlewood with his World Cup show, the World Cupper, coming up at midday today, and every day this week. Similarly, Russell Quirk will be here with the Quirk Report at 10 a.m. On the new channel, UK Live Online. And that's where you need to go. We'll tell you how to do that over the course of the next couple of hours, because we're here at 8:04 and about to talk to Lionel Zeta, who's described to me here as a Westminster insider. He's going to talk to us about Makerfield, the by-election coming up tomorrow, supposedly the most important by-election in the history of the UK. I don't know if it's quite as big as that, Lionel, but it's certainly as big as we've seen this century. Very good morning to you. Apologies for keeping you waiting. What are you making of Makerfield, and what do you think is going to happen?
Looks like a slam dunk for Andy Burnham, but there certainly have been moves to get Rebecca Shepherd to dial down her campaign for Restore UK. That doesn't seem to have worked. So with the right-wing vote being split between Reform and Restore, I think probably Andy Burnham is pretty well home and dry.
I think it's a sort of a close enough run thing, though, to make it maybe go to a recount. Because, I mean, we had Richard Tyson here yesterday from Reform talking about how, obviously, they'll say it's a two-horse race, that there's maybe 4 or 5 points between them and Burnham. But, again, that could be made up by the difference in Restore's vote as well. But there's also quite a lot, I'm told, there's quite a lot of undecideds up there, which could account for as many as 10%. So I'm wondering if we might be in for a bit of a surprise in some way, shape or form.
No, I'll be staying up for it for sure. And I've got money on Reform, but that was at 5-1. So, a decent bet.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, in terms of what we've seen around the Andy Burnham sort of campaign, the word seems to be that if he does win, he's going to be looking to push Keir Starmer out of Downing Street pretty much by Friday about midday.
Yeah, pretty damn quick. He's got to get the 81 votes or the 81 letters of support. And of course, Andy hasn't been an MP for, I think, 10 years. So he doesn't exactly know the PLP inside out. But he does have friends, allies, lieutenants who do know the PLP inside out. So, yeah, I think he'll get his 81 votes pretty quick.
Yeah.
I think Starmer will stand and fight. Wes Streeting's got to go for it. He really has, or he'll look crazy. But yeah, it looks like Burnham. The question will be, will he be any damn good? Being a mayor is...
I can help you with that. I can help you with that one. He won't be any good at all. He'll be completely and utterly bloody useless, because he was always useless. I mean, this idea, this myth that's been, sort of built around him, that he's the king of the north, wrong. That he's this kind of fantastic mayor of Manchester, wrong. Brilliant, polemicist, wrong. Brilliant MP, wrong. Fantastic minister, wrong. None of it's true.
Yeah, he's going to be a massive disappointment, not least to the Labour Party, but the electorate will be turned off by him very, very quickly indeed, I'm afraid. I say that because although I am a Tory member and a Tory supporter and a Tory voter, I don't really want to see the country go through another bout of chaos such as we had under my lot. So a bit of stability would be quite nice, but I can't see where that's coming from. I don't think we're going to get it.
I mean, have you been surprised, as I have been, at the speed with which this Labour government has kind of collapsed in on itself and has been incapable, seemingly, of doing anything, including running its own ship? I mean, you've got, just last week, when we saw yesterday John Healey resigning from the cabinet, basically, sticking it to Keir Starmer, saying you broke your promise. Al Khan's the same. It's just been one disaster after another ever since they got in. I mean, I was talking to Will Geddes a bit earlier on about, how our show is a bit different to many shows because we tell the truth. And I also pay for my own clothes. And I thought to myself, unlike Keir Starmer, who got his clothes bought for him by Lord Ali. As soon as he got into Downing Street, there was a scandal.
Yeah, it started from that point. The defence was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
And your previous guest summed it up, really. But it's twofold. It's not only not finding the money for the dip, as they call it. It's also the fact that he and Lord Schhammer have been pursuing British veterans with a joyfulness that is sickening to behold. I mean, these guys have served their country, they've fought and died for their country, and they're being pursued for things they did sometimes decades ago. It's absolutely crazy.
And I mean, one of the headlines on your sort of intro to this show was welfare or warfare. We can't afford warfare. We can't really afford welfare either. But Burnham's not going to change that, is he?
No, he won't. If anything, he'll go further and faster. I think the defence budget's about £66 billion. I think the welfare budget is currently at about £365 billion. But it's going up at the rate of 5,000 people a day are being signed off work, working age people. It's absolutely crazy. And Burnham is not going to do anything at all about that.
There's a piece in the papers this morning, it's in the Mail. The number on disability benefits has hit 4 million. And nearly 40% of those are claiming they've got mental health problems. And this is now the number of people who are claiming PIP, I believe it is, the personal independence payment across England and Wales. And that's at the end of April, so it's probably even higher than that. 4 million people doing absolutely nothing is extraordinary.
It's crazy. And in fact, the money the government now takes from people paying taxes for being in work does not cover the amount of money they are paying people to be out of work. So, we are on a hiding. If the IMF had any money, we'd be going to them fairly soon, but they don't. They've spent it all. It's
I mean, I've heard this from several economists that we speak to on a kind of weekly basis, that if we did go to the IMF for a bailout, they couldn't afford to give us the bailout because they haven't got enough money.
They haven't got the money. No, they absolutely haven't. It's quite remarkable. And at the same time, more than 80% of the money we borrow pays the interest of money we've already borrowed. So if we were a company or an individual, we'd be bankrupt already, and we're heading for bankruptcy as a nation.
Unfortunately, a sort of foregone conclusion, isn't it? And I mean, the worst news is just seeing it running across the bottom of the screen there. This morning we discover in the Telegraph that we're actually now funding the energy bills of the French in addition to our own. 16 billion quid we're apparently sending across the channel to help pay for their, cooking purposes.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that story before I saw it on your ticker. It's utterly bizarre. I mean, we left the EU. I was a Brexiteer. I don't resile from it now. I still think it was the right thing to do, but we have not taken advantage of the opportunities that Brexit gave us. And so we got the worst of both worlds. We're shut out from the EU markets, but we're not using the freedom that not being a member of the EU gives us.
And that's always been the problem, hasn't it? And now with Starmer wanting to issue us with this kind of EU reset, we're going to be once again back in hock with the EU without actually having any power to do anything about it.
Yeah, and the Lib Dems today are announcing that their plans to rejoin the single market and the customs union. So that is the direction of travel, which is why at the next election, it's absolutely essential that there is some kind of a right-wing coalition. I can't see anybody winning outright. So it will either be a left-wing coalition, Labour, Greens, Lib Dems, or a right-wing coalition, Tories, Reform, Restore. And it's essential it's the latter. And from my selfish point of view, I'd like the Conservatives to be the bigger party, the biggest party within that coalition.
Though, because a lot of people that I speak to, and certainly many people who watch this show and who followed me over from Talk, had said to me after 2024 we'll never vote. We've voted Tory all our lives. We'll never vote Tory again. And as much as Kemi Badenoch is kind of, making all the right noises and seemingly is being seen as a better leader than she started off being, it's not really cutting through. I mean, like, for example, the Conservative candidate in Makerfield might as well not bother.
Yeah, I mean, that candidate, I don't know him personally, but he'll have been told just not to screw up, basically. Just turn up, wear a rosette, say as little as possible. The Tories aren't seriously contesting Makerfield. At the same time, they can't not put up a candidate, otherwise they'd be accused of not being a national party. But their focus is on Aberdeen South, which I'm told they have a very good chance of winning.
Restore Britain is not running up there. They're only running in Makerfield, as if to say that perhaps they only want to damage reform.
I know, this is a really biblical spat between Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, and I can't see it ever being patched up. These guys really detest each other.
Yeah, they do. I think you're right. Good to see you. Lionel, nice to have you on the show. We must do it again sometime. Lionel Zeta there with his view on what's happening in Makerfield. Will Geddes still here with me. We're going to talk to Ralph Schhammer in a moment. But it's bizarre, isn't it, that you've still got Conservative people like Lionel saying, the Conservatives must be the top of the three kind of, right-wing parties in any kind of coalition. That's never going to happen, is it?
No, it won't happen.
It's all over for them,
I think it's all over. The only way that they'll be able to do it is as a coalition, either with Nigel or with Rupert.
Yeah.
That's the only way they're going to come back.
Yeah.
And I think you're absolutely right, what you were saying about a lot of people after, obviously, they pretty much buried themselves and said, I voted Conservatives all my life. I did too. And now I never will. I think the problem is also you've got Kemi, which is she's echoing what Nigel's saying, and she's picking selectively some of those sort of key topics which are really appealing to the general electorate and saying, oh yeah, that's what we're going to do. But the problem is there's such a massive distrust.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest challenge is anybody believing any politician, and I say that universally, as to once they get into power, are they going to do what they say they're going to do?
Yeah. And I think, like people's trust in the mainstream media being, completely and utterly evaporated, the same goes, I think, for the mainstream politicians and the mainstream political parties.
Yeah.
Nobody believes a word they say.
No.
Because why would you? Because they've broken their word so many times.
Correct.
Let's talk to Ralph Schhammer, though, who is here from Austria, I think. Very good morning to you, sir.
Hey, Mike. Good morning to you. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed. Good to see you. I was
to see you as well.
Away last week, and I was telling everyone the first couple of days of the week that, when you leave the country, and I know you do that quite a bit, you realise what's wrong with it, and you realise why it's become such a terrible, terrible place to live. When you go somewhere else and see, I was in Cyprus, right, which is not what you might call a particularly special place, but it was just so much better run, so much more efficient, so much cleaner, so much easier to drive around, so much easier to kind of do anything in. This country now, in London, in Britain today, is becoming impossible to live in.
Yeah, I mean, and whenever I comment on Britain, I want to make absolutely clear, I think we see the same pattern repeat itself all over the West. And what I find particularly frustrating is we wouldn't have to live like this. It's the demoralization of the population that I would say is because of the way particular the political class is acting. I mean, you can go through every single detail. I heard your previous guest talking about the issues with unemployment and people being out of work. We have the same in continental Europe. We have the migration topic we talked about. I think Restore has now published the grooming gang report. So these are all bits and pieces that I think come together and lead to the demoralization of the population. It makes it harder and harder for people that could work, and I think that also would want to work, to get up in the morning. If you have a sense that you live in a society that has kind of given up on itself, it gets more and more difficult to quite literally get out of bed in the morning and do something productive. And I think we see this all over the West. It's quite frustrating.
Say to people, look, I don't actually blame individuals in the same way that I don't blame illegal migrants for getting on a dinghy to come to Britain, because it's our fault that we've made it so attractive for them, right? Similarly, I don't think it's the fault of people who don't want to get out of bed in the morning because it's not worth their while. If you make it easier for people to get paid nothing, or to get paid rather to do nothing, rather than to get less money to go to work, they're not going to go to work. It's as simple as that. So you have to make it surely more attractive for them to get out of bed and to get work and to do something, sensible with their lives. Otherwise, they're just going to. We've got 4 million people now on disability benefits in this country. I mean, it's a ridiculous number.
No, it is. But I think that one of the problems is, and I would say that's almost a philosophical problem, that over the last couple of decades, we inhabit such a, and I don't want to sound like a Marxist, but we have become so materialistic. And what I mean by this is, don't get me wrong, I think material stuff is important in many ways, in many areas. But we have become so materialistic that we think that every problem can be solved via throwing more money at it, right? That we are just like, homunculi or, kind of machines that just have to consume and that's it. But deep down, actually not even that deep down, we all want to be part of something more. I wouldn't call it, if you can call it spiritual or whatever it is, but a sense of meaning is very, very important. And this comes partially, of course, also from the society we live in. And as I said before, if you sense, as you said before, Mike, right, that nothing seems to work anymore, the streets appear to be dirtier, security is going down, then as you say, right, that if you go to work 40 hours a week, you don't really make more money than the guy who doesn't go to work 40 hours a week. It's not about the money itself, it's a sense of unfairness, right? You feel like a fool if you try to be productive. And this is what I mean. It's a demoralization of society. There is nothing at the moment. And again, this is not just the UK, that's uplifting. I mean, this, I think, is why everybody is longing for a changing of the guard in the political class, where somebody who says, listen, guys, we can do this differently. Like this ocean liner that is cruising towards the iceberg, we actually can make a 180-degree turn. But that needs to happen in so many areas. I still believe that it is possible, but I think a sense of a new beginning is really something, including myself, that many people are longing for, and it's not yet happening. And I can completely understand, by the way, when people say also in the comments, they're never going to vote for the Tories again, because even with Kemi Badenoch, who I think is very likable, but you sometimes wonder, is her and the rest of the party's heart really in it, right? Do they really still believe in the possibility of a renewed Britain? Or are they also just saying, well, we kind of have to manage the decline that is irreversible? And I would rather vote for, whether it's Nigel Farage or Rupert Lowe, for somebody who says, no, renewal is possible. So restore, reform, whatever you want to call it, right? That whoever is going to do it is possible. You want somebody who says, this is not the final hour of Britain, right? Maybe not yet the finest hour, but definitely not the final hour of Britain.
Yeah.
And I don't see this from the established political class at the moment.
No, I mean, you look at the G7, for example, at the moment, and you see Keir Starmer, I was laughing yesterday saying that he's got a disguise on so he doesn't get recognised by Donald Trump before he gets given another slap around the chops, because at the end of the day, we're run by these kind of automatons, these kind of, managerial people who don't really have any kind of passion about what they want to do. They don't really have a vision of what they want the country to become, and there was a time when we did have politicians like that. I mean, somebody described Keir Starmer to me yesterday as like a bit like Ted Heath, back in the 70s, who kind of was very awkward, couldn't really speak very well, wasn't really at ease talking to ordinary people, and would rather kind of have a summit meeting and organise somebody to set up a committee to reshape the pencil sharpener or to, come up with a new way of designing a paperclip. That's what he wants to do because he doesn't have any inspired thought about the future of the nation.
I think that's true, but I genuinely believe, I mean, this is I might be exaggerating, but I genuinely believe that these people, they don't love their country. Like, say whatever you want about the post-World War II generation and the pre-World War II generation. And, many mistakes have been made. Winston Churchill had his number of faults. So did his successors and so did his predecessors. But I think nobody seriously doubted their commitment and love of country. But to be quite honest, again, same in continental Europe, I doubt it with our current political guys. Does Friedrich Merz really love Germany? I don't know. Maybe Emmanuel Macron a little bit, but does Keir Starmer, like, is his what is it called? Like, is his heart rate going up when he sees a Union Jack? I just don't believe it. And I want to be, you can call this ridiculous, but I think that's a very important precondition.
No, I'll tell you when his heart rate goes up when he sees an iftar going on, and he immediately goes and joins in and goes, this is great, praise be to Allah. And you're kind of going, sorry, mate, you're actually British.
Yeah, but this is important. I mean, nobody would doubt for a second that the key to a successful marriage is commitment and affection for your partner. But the same is true in politics and with your country. You cannot govern a country well if you don't, and I use this term quite deliberately, if you don't love it. And again, I always say this on your show, Mike, I'm a nationalist / patriot, whatever term you prefer, but this should be a precondition. That these days it's an exception. And you can almost feel, even now during the World Championship, there is almost a sense of shame that, can we show our flag, or can we make a commitment to our country, or do we have to immediately say no, but we like everybody else just as much? Again, you would never say that to your wife. You would never tell your wife, I love you, but I love all the other women in the world just as much. It's a very absurd thing, and you cannot hold a nation state together without any kind of commitment and belief in the nation. It's completely absurd. And again, I think I have my issues with Rupert Lowe. I have my issues with Nigel Farage. But in that area, I think they're genuinely more credible than the alternatives. Again, nobody is perfect, but who is, right? We're talking about politics and not about religion.
Yeah, but a little bit of passion might be nice, because I think what we're sick to death of, Keir Starmer's kind of, monotone and his glibness and his kind of, inability to understand empathy or to even be sympathetic to people who have had something terrible happen to them, or, he just, every single chance he gets to get something wrong, he gets it wrong. I mean, speaking though of wives and passion, we've got a poll at the moment actually, because, one of the things that really annoyed me yesterday was when I saw Starmer turning up at the G7 with his wife. I'm thinking, what's she doing there? Why has he got her, meeting Vladimir Zelensky? Can we play that, Charlotte? It's the clip of Starmer meeting Zelensky, and just play the bit where the opening part of it, right? Where you see him and his wife going to say hello to the leader of Ukraine.
Good to see you again.
Lovely to see you again.
Yeah.
Which was, well, we saw you in Downing Street after the...
What's she doing there? So we've got a poll, right? It says, where shouldn't you take your wife? Number 1, the G7 summit. 2, to work. 3, to the pub with the lads. 4, up the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it's funnily enough, I'm surprised that the G7 summit is actually winning. People are taking it seriously. But, there are things that you shouldn't do with your wife. And if you're the Prime Minister or the President or, whatever it is you are of some kind of leader of a political organisation, why is she there? I don't get it.
No, it all seems so scripted. I mean, this is the other thing that is so bothersome, right? Everybody talks about authenticity, but nothing has become as little authentic as politics these days. You can even, whenever you hear a politician give an interview, you can literally see how, behind their eyes, they go through what did the last focus group say on this? What was the last, the last poll on this? And I always wonder, I think that this is so completely misunderstood. Just because you take polls and people say what they would like doesn't mean that they cannot respect if politicians do something different. Right? This is again completely absurd. People, when you ask me, would you like, I don't know, the land of milk and honey? I would say yes. But if they would also ask me, do you think that this is something that is possible? Of course, I understand it's not possible.
Right.
And
this is the beauty of polling, isn't it? Because when, for example, you get all these polls done about climate change, and they go, 75% of people in Britain would like to see us tackling climate change. But it depends on how you ask the question. If you say to them, would you like to see us improving the climate so that we don't all die a horrible death in about 10 years? Everybody goes, oh, yes, please. If you say, would you like to give me £25 a month in order to stop climate change from happening? People will go, no, maybe not, because I don't want to give you any money.
Yeah. And it also, I'm glad you mentioned climate change, because this dovetails nicely with also the G7 meeting. It just becomes so obvious that for so many politicians in Europe and the West overall, they feel that they're above domestic polities, right? They want to change the climate. They want to solve the conflict in Ukraine. They want to this, they want to do that. But the major problems for the UK, for Austria and Germany are domestic issues, right? The really big things that matter for most people is happening within our country's borders. And it seems maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it appears that they care very little about this. And that bothers people. And I think it bothers them absolutely for a very, very good reason. There's this idea that, it's like it's beneath them in a sense, right? Oh, I have all these great things. Remember Keir Starmer when he was asked whether he would prefer Westminster to Davos, and he said he would prefer Davos. That's exactly this kind of attitude, that it just happens that they are Prime Minister of the UK, but if they could, they'd be much rather, I don't know, Secretary General of the UN or whatever it then is.
To be honest, they're welcome to him. This is like when I used to work in newspapers. We would do these, focus groups every now and again. You'd get the marketing department going, how can we sell more papers? And you go, all right, let's ask the audience. So you'd get these people to come in, and you'd say to them, what do you think you'd like to see in the newspaper? And they would all, without any question, shadow of a doubt, you could predict it, would say, oh, we'd quite like some good news. And you go, what do you mean? And they didn't know what they meant. They didn't know what good news was. I'm like, what's good news? And news isn't generally good. And the reason why newspapers sell more when there's something bad happening is because people actually like bad news.
Well, and there are not many good news at the moment. And I'd be completely honest with you and your audience. I think that turning the ship around will demand lots of sacrifices, and it won't be easy for anybody. But I think, again, what bothers people is not the fact that sacrifices will be needed. What bothers them is who is asking them for those sacrifices, and whether they're willing to make these sacrifices themselves. Like, this is always the big problem. If somebody like Keir Starmer or Friedrich Merz, again, you name it, goes out and says, this is going to be tough times. We all have to pull together and, whatever. People say, okay. And what are you doing? How are you leading by example? Because they don't. And this is the thing. If you demand hardship and sacrifice from people, you have to go first. And I was just as a reminder tell you, and I'm sure that your viewers know this, if you look at something like World War I, if you look at World War II, right, the political class, their sons, their brothers, their sisters, their families were deeply involved in this, right? People of the British upper class died in very high numbers in World War I. Again, why am I mentioning this? Because whatever the British states demanded of its people 100 years ago, the leading class, at least to some extent, was willing to do themselves. But this is no longer the case. They talk about what you have to do, but they themselves seem to be very unwilling to do the same thing. And again, we see this in so many areas. Take once again the migration issue. Diversity is our strength, but I put my child in a private school where there isn't a lot of diversity.
Right. No, exactly right. And you're absolutely spot on with that. There is one bit of good news, Ralph, that I can tell you, though, is that you will be back.
Well, I don't know. Will I be back this Friday? Are we doing a double session this week, or is it?
Well, listen, I'd have to talk to Charlotte. I don't see why not. I think we may need to discuss whatever happens in the by-election on Thursday night. So, yeah,
all
by all means.
I'm available. I'm available.
We can do you twice a week. I don't have a problem with that. No problem at all. Ralph, great to see you.
I'll
Ralph
check with the audience.
We will. We'll ask the audience whether they want Ralph back. They probably have him every day, actually, to be fair. They love you. I think it's brilliant. Will Geddes is here with me. I'm getting a lot of questions from people about your tattoo, Will.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what is it?
I'm not telling.
Is it a Special Forces tattoo or something?
Special
that scene in Lethal Weapon?
Yeah.
Where they find out that the guys, they've got mercury switches and they've blown up the house.
Yeah. With Gary Busey.
And the little kids going, he had a tattoo. And old Mel Gibson goes, what was a tattoo? It was that. And he points to his Special Forces tattoo, man.
Special Forces tattoo.
Great, one of the great scenes. Anyway, I don't know why we got off on that.
We love Ralph.
Ralph's brilliant, isn't he?
Isn't he good?
Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. We can have him. I think we can have him back Friday, can't we, Charlotte?
Yeah, definitely.
Why not? Indeed. Now, it's coming up. We've got Sarah Poachin to talk to. I've got some breaking news for her as well, which she's going to love. I'm going to talk to her about Makerfield, obviously. Big night for reform coming up tomorrow. And we'll talk about a great many other things as well. First, though, should we get some news with Edward Hughes?
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes with your Wednesday bulletin. Tensions with Russia escalated as a Russian warship fired warning shots near a British yacht in the English Channel. A retired couple described the surreal incident, with shots fired close to their vessel amid heightened UK-Russia friction. In politics, Labour faces internal pressure. Ex-Defence Secretary John Healey and senior figures criticise defence spending plans as insufficient, warning of operational cuts. Health Secretary Wes Streeting signalled readiness for a potential leadership contest. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a sweeping ban on social media for under-16s to protect children, while committing UK support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz with allies. Other stories include ongoing defence and migration debates, plus Prince George set to attend Eton, a day dominated by security, politics and child protection. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Hi there, Mark Littlewood here, in Mike Graham's seat. But as of Monday the 15th of June, I'm going to be in a different seat for UK Live, giving you everything you need to know about the World Cup.
Mark Littlewood coming up at 12 o'clock today with the World Cupper. I mean, funnily enough, I got in the car this morning, Will.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Go on.
And I never know exactly what the radio station is going to be when I switch it on because I've been flipping around. But I had it on 5 Live. There was a live game on.
Oh, was that?
Like 5:30 this morning.
Wow.
I think
Who was that?
I think it was Austria-Jordan. Not Katie Price. The other Jordan.
No, she's still trying to get the hubby out of jail, isn't she?
Yeah, apparently, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, unbelievably, she was drunk apparently at some function yesterday.
Was she?
And was shouting about HMP Dubai. I mean,
not a good call. Not when you're in Dubai, mate. Not when you're in Dubai.
Anyway, listen. Let's raise the channel's likelihood of being seen as a serious organisation because Sarah Pochin is here, MP, of course, for Runcorn and Helsby. Sarah, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Do I look about centre on the screen then?
You look at about right. You maybe move to your left a slight tad. There you go. There you go. Very good.
Okay.
Are you in Runcorn or are you in Makerfield? Where are you?
I am currently in my flat in London, about to go into Parliament because obviously it's PMQs. And also today I am hosting the third of my roundtable discussions in Parliament. And today it's all about Sharia law and the suppression of women, the increasing increasing rise of the parallel legal system that is coming from the expansion of the Islamic sort of extremism in this country. So, a nice, gentle, soft subject this afternoon before I head up to Makerfield.
Right, because it's very exciting up there at the moment. I mean, Richard Tice was in here with me yesterday and he was saying that very much still a two-horse race as far as he's concerned. He was pretty sure actually that every other party, including Restore, would lose their deposit. And he doesn't think that there's going to be much of a problem. And it's probably going to go down to the wire, possibly even a recount, maybe, because there's still quite a lot of undecideds, I think, aren't there?
Well, look, I hope it doesn't go to a recount because I'm doing the media through the night. So
are you?
I'm not quite sure how I'll be looking if we have to go through a recount. But anyway, I guess the least of our problems will be how I look. But no,
I'm sure you look marvellous. Don't worry about it.
One of the things that I just don't understand about the Labour vote up in somewhere like Makerfield. Look, Makerfield was a strong Leave vote. And I know that was 10 years ago. But look, it's the 10-year anniversary, isn't it, of Brexit? And we still talk about it with such passion in this country, and rightly so, because, our leaders, successive leaders, have never, in my opinion, actually made the best of Brexit because they never, ever wanted it to happen. So already the population has been pretty much betrayed by successive governments when it comes to implementing Brexit. But going back to Makerfield was a 60% plus Leave vote. And yet, potentially we're facing a situation where they're going to elect someone who is unashamedly said he wants to take us and see us back in the European Union. Of course he U-turned on that for the campaign, didn't he? What a shallow politician Andy Burnham is. But the fact is that if he is voted in, if he becomes the next Prime Minister, then we are marching back into Europe. And what the British people have to understand, and I stress this to the voters of Makerfield, if we go back into Europe, then we lose our pound because part of the deal is that we have to join the euro. And oh my goodness, people like Margaret Thatcher turning in her grave.
Definitely. I mean, we don't want that because then not only are we not governed by the Bank of England, which is bad enough, by the way, because they're not very good at what they do, but we'd then be governed by the Central Bank of Europe, which is hopeless.
Absolute disaster. But also, look, Churchill's already been booted off our our banknotes, something that I would love to reverse if I had if I was in charge. But what a disgrace that is in itself. But the British people, you go out there on the streets and say, do you want to go back into Europe? And some might go, well, I don't know. Do you want to lose the pound and have the euro? Absolutely not, Mike. People will not stand for that in this country. That will be the tipping point in this country when it comes to Europe. But that is what the voters of Makerfield are potentially opening the door for if they vote Andy Burnham in. Make no mistake, this U-turn on Europe is simply to try and get this election through in Makerfield.
Sure, also, they're going to try and hang their hats on the European Union because they want to be governed by the European Union in order to kind of, control what it is that the British government's allowed to do. So, for example, they might like to try and postpone the next election, or they might like to, like they tried to do with the local elections, is just not have an election and go, oh, well, the European Union have told us we can do this. It's a very thinly disguised attempt, I think, at removing democracy from this country and handing it to Brussels.
Well, look, they're already doing everything they possibly can, aren't they, to stop freedom of speech and dumb down the legal system into a soft justice environment where criminality, quite frankly, is flourishing at the moment under this government. Don't get me started on how they have softened the sentencing powers of magistrates and judges and so on and so forth. That's a whole nother discussion, but absolute disgrace. We do not want to be governed by European laws, and businesses will once again be subject to huge regulations that come in from Europe, which was one of the main reasons that we wanted to free ourselves of all that legislation. And let's not forget, we have actually grown more, albeit pitifully low. The figures are pitifully low for all the countries, but we have grown more than Germany, France, Italy. Why do we want to tie ourselves to economies that are actually performing less well than ourselves?
I see this morning, by the way, I don't know if you've seen the Telegraph front page, but apparently we're paying not only for our own ridiculously high electricity bills, but we're also subsidising the French. Apparently 16 billion quid's worth of our money is going over to France in some kind of weird electrical exchange so that we're paying for them to heat their own houses in France.
Oh my God. Do you know what? The French have got it right, haven't they? I mean, there's not much I have to say in favour of the French, but they certainly know how to work the system. The best thing about the French is their Provence rosé, I should add. There is something good about the French. But let's face it, our champagne is already much better than the French. In fact, last night I was at Lord Ashcroft's book launch for his latest book on Nigel Farage, and he serves a delicious champagne, or we're not allowed to call it that, are we? An English sparkling wine.
English sparkling wine, yes.
His own vineyard. But anyway, look, we're digressing off to onto different subjects. But it's much more interesting talking about champagne, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Well, listen. I'm going to digress even further because there was some bad news for Nigel Farage this morning, and I can't tell you where I got this from, but apparently there's been a poll published just last night about Britain's sexiest politicians. And last year, Nigel Farage was the sexiest man. But this year, right, he's been unseated by none other than Richard Tice. So, I mean, Reform are obviously in the fast lane when it comes to, the ladies.
Do you know what? Richard was devastated last year. He didn't actually make the list. So he's had a lot of work done.
He's had a makeover.
He's had a lot of work done, which was under the advice of Lee Anderson.
Yeah.
And so here we are. Look, it's been worth every penny because he's at the top of the list. But I'm devastated because I lost out last year to Angela Rayner, and this year I've lost out to Kemi Badenoch.
What? Yeah, I know.
I mean, heavens.
Well, I mean, losing to Kemi's not so bad as losing to Angela Rayner. I mean, that really is something you wouldn't want to admit to, really, would you? But according to this, Richard Tice crowned the UK's sexiest male politician, claiming 23% of the vote in illicitencounters.com. Not sure Isabel's going to be too pleased about that. I mean, Nigel, I suppose, won't mind slipping to second place on 22% after 2 consecutive years at the top.
Well, you know what these male egos are like. I wouldn't like to get involved in that at all. And obviously, I couldn't possibly give my opinion because my job will be on the line. It's all a little bit of fun when, let's face it, so much in the news is so shocking. And one of the things in the news today, which, I wanted to raise with you, which really is a travesty, is Baroness Casey coming out saying a year on from her recommendations as to what to put into place voice with respect to clamping down on the grooming gangs has been ignored. She's basically saying that Whitehall tick boxes just enough to make it look like something has been done, but actually nothing is really being done about clamping down on these grooming gangs. And look, I wanted to raise this because it's such an important issue. You know, I'm a member of Parliament for a constituency in the Northwest. These grooming gangs are still rife in the Northwest. Let's not think this is all just historic. This is ongoing.
Yeah.
And I keep saying every day that politicians do not act on this subject, on this issue, more young white girls are being raped and tortured by predominantly Pakistani men. It's a fact. We need to call it out, and nothing is being done about it. And today in the papers, you know, Baroness Casey is saying just that. She's saying that ethnicity is still not being recorded on these crimes. She's saying that criminal convictions of victims, whether it was for drugs or whatever they were being pushed by their abusers into, have not been cancelled. You know, that it's an absolute disgrace. And I know people like myself talk about this a lot, but it's so frustrating, Mike, because nothing ever happens, and it's still ongoing. Every single day, another girl is being raped. It is not acceptable. Why is no one fixing the problem? I'll tell you why, and it still comes back to the racist card. Nobody wants to be accused of being racist. And look, there was another dreadful story, wasn't there, yesterday, day before, about the little baby Preston. And I'm sorry, I've said it yesterday. I said very clearly, in my view, that poor little baby had 8 hospital visits and nobody did anything. Why? I bet you it's because nobody wanted to be called homophobic because his adopted parents were 2 men.
Yeah.
When are we going to get a grip of this? The pendulum has swung so far into the woke world that people are afraid to call out when they can see a child that is clearly being abused and then dies. What's it going to take, Mike?
It is extraordinary, isn't it? And the public sector seems particularly to have been captured by this ideology where they don't want to be seen to be offending any particular group. And so, unfortunately, people die. Children die. Children get attacked and assaulted and raped, as you say. And it's awful. I don't know how we got to this place. It really is incredibly disappointing that Britain is now the kind of top standard bearer for this kind of, let's turn a blind eye to what's going on because we're so frightened of offending anyone.
Well, and that's why somebody like myself gets such abuse from various, action groups, because I am prepared to say, were those social workers worried about being homophobic? I am prepared to say that the police were hiding behind the racism card and still are, with respect to grooming gangs. I am prepared to say, and I held a discussion in Parliament on the subject of the indoctrination of children in our schools, because the trans lobbyists are paying for materials that our primary school children are being taught that if they're not happy as a little boy, they can become a little girl. And these children are being taught that as young as 5, 6, 7 years old, Mike. And I will call that out. But people like Wes Streeting in his role as Health Secretary, when he was Health Secretary, would not call this stuff out. The Education Secretary, I don't even know who that is, to be honest. I never see them in Parliament. Anyway, and I mean that genuinely. They don't talk about these issues. I genuinely don't know who the Education Secretary is. I probably should. But the point is they're letting it happen. They're doing nothing about what is happening. And I get so much abuse for saying these things, but we have to reform. When we get into government, we will deal with this. We will deal with what our children are being taught in schools. We will deal with this racist nonsense. We will deal with these social workers that should be sacked. What are they still doing in their job, Mike?
But this is the thing. It's almost impossible to sack anybody in the public sector as well. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter how wrong they get their judgments. It doesn't matter how ridiculously badly they've done their job and how much damage has been done. But basically, they just are allowed to continue their jobs. I mean, I saw a story yesterday, I don't know whether you did, in the Telegraph, about a pro-migrant campaign group called, I think it's called Search, who have admitted and boasted, actually, that they influenced a BBC children's television show as part of an attempt to make children welcome asylum seekers into the country, and they were given free access to sort of, editorialise, to give the advice to these children's programmers on the BBC, to basically make out that, all migrants are good, and you should be out there sort of, cheering them on and welcoming them as they walk up the beach. Incredible.
Well, I do know that children in schools are being taught now, primary schools are being taught now to call them the boat people, aren't they? Not illegal migrants, which is what they are, but to be called them the boat people, and we have to be kind to the boat people. This is absolute brainwashing of children. No teacher is telling that child that veterans are homeless on the street because an illegal migrant is taking their housing. I have 3,800 people in Runcorn and Helsby on a housing list, and yet 600 illegal migrants are being housed in my constituency. That is not acceptable. I am always happy to say when I visit housing associations and they give me a tour of their new development or whatever it might be, I always say to them, can you guarantee me that local people will have priority over these new houses and not illegal migrants? And of course they can't. They can't answer those questions. So children in school are being brainwashed in every which way, and it has to change.
It does. I mean, 700 more have come in the last 24 hours alone. 710, actually, to be precise. The biggest number in one single day. We're only in the beginning of the summer, really, and that's going to get worse and worse and worse. So, while Keir Starmer's over in the G7 in Evian, cleansing himself with his wife, which we'll get onto in a minute, suddenly, saying that we must stop the possibility of an invasion from Russia. We're already being invaded from, Calais, thanks.
We're being invaded, and look, we should have the Navy in the Channel. I'm not sure we have much of a Navy left, but I assume we have enough of a Navy to be able to stop a dinghy in the Channel. But the point is they're coming over. This government...
They managed to board the Russian ship. I mean, we've got Russian ships firing missiles and things all over the place, but we can't stop a dinghy.
That was a bit of a farce, wasn't it? Someone pointed out that the cameramen were already at the bottom of the stairs filming the guys coming down.
Exactly.
So, doesn't sound much of a covert operation to me. I know I'm not an expert in these things, but look, absolutely, this government has failed to stop a single boat, and it is about the will of the government. When Reform get in, the first thing we do is put the Navy in the Channel and we stop those boats. We either turn them around, or if they suddenly, cut a hole in it and start sinking, then we pick them up and we take them straight off to a deportation centre. They will not set foot on our shores. And I tell you what, more and more now the British people agree with what I've just said. We cannot sustain, we are not a home for the rest of the world. And these people say, well, they're coming from war-torn countries or countries with civil wars and, all the rest of it. I'm sorry, we can't take everybody here. They can stop in France, they can stop in Germany along the way, whatever it might be. But the whole of Europe is cannot be a home for all of the places in the world that are struggling with themselves. It's just impossible. It's a fact. We are absolutely drowning. I mean, how appropriate to use that word, but we are drowning under this illegal, this invasion of illegal migrants.
Well, exactly. They might be fleeing civil war, but if they don't stop coming, there's going to be a bloody civil war here. Never mind fleeing it. Will Geddes there just showing off his tattoo, which he's not allowed to talk about. Go on.
Hello, Sarah.
Good morning. It's funny you should mention the whether that was a Special Forces tattoo, because I was actually I asked a question. I know you're shaking your head, but I pointed out in the chamber yesterday. I think it was. I don't know what day it is. Maybe it was Monday. But anyway, we were in response to a defence question.
Yes.
I pointed out that this Prime Minister, unlike all modern day prime ministers before him, has never been to visit Special Forces HQ. Yeah. What a disgrace that is. Yeah. And does that reflect where on his priorities list our defence is? But these are our elite troops, the best in the world. And I know I'm from a military background. I know people say, oh, well, you're biased. This isn't being biased. This is about calling it out as it is. Yeah. These men put their lives on the line for us, and he has not been visited Special Forces. I wouldn't have asked that question if I didn't know the answer, and of course I knew the answer.
Yeah.
And did they not try and hide behind the fact that, we can't discuss special forces and you shouldn't be asking those kinds of questions? I'm sorry. This is what the Labour government does all the time. They try and shut everybody down on the basis that, there's a live case going on, or there's an investigation going on, or the police are doing this. It's like, no, just answer the bloody question, thank you.
I very carefully worded that question so that I didn't say anything that wasn't in the public domain. The point I was making was that this Prime Minister has not shown the support that he should have shown to our special forces by going to visit them. And look, it's out there. It's a fact. Clearly, the Minister wouldn't agree or disagree, but everybody knows that I knew the answer to that question. But the point is, defence is clearly so topical at the moment. We've had the 2 resignations. I listened carefully in the chamber yesterday to the 2 statements, the 2 resignation speeches from John Healey and Al Cairns. And actually, it was quite moving. What they were saying is really quite upsetting, because we are defenceless at the moment. We are utterly reliant on our allies because of the Tory 14 years and the acceleration over the last 2 years of a complete and utter lack of investment in our defence. And at a time when, we've been clearly sitting on our laurels as a nation and thinking, well, we're never going to have a war again. And here we are. We've clearly had the war in Ukraine for some time. We've got Russia getting all twitchy all around the place and pushing the boundaries of even like their presence in the channel. And we need to step up, and we can't. And it's not a quick fix. You have to invest for the future. Look, they were arguing yesterday about whether the defence budget should be 3% by 2030 or 3.5% by 2035. For goodness sake, slash the welfare bill and start putting it all into defence now, today. Let's not wait and mess around. We are defenceless as a nation.
We are, absolutely right. Now, I've got a very serious question for you. I'm going to play you this. Charlotte, can you just play in that little footage of old Starmer and Mrs. Starmer meeting Zelensky again?
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Which was, we saw you in Downing Street after the...
Chat that. So I'm sorry. What's she doing there, right? I'm sorry. We've got a poll going at the moment, right? Where shouldn't you take your wife to a G7 summit, to work, to the pub with the lads, or up the Eiffel Tower? At the end of the day, right? You've said you've got a very busy day ahead of you. You've got this big, round table meeting going on. You're not going to show up with your husband, are you? You're not going to go, oh, by the way, here's Mr. Poachin over here. He's going to say hello to you. I just think it's ludicrous. What the hell is she doing there? What's the point of that?
I have no idea. If he's trying to improve the optics, it's way, way too late for that, Keir Starmer. It does look rather like he's wheeled his wife out for the photographs, doesn't it? But yeah, absolute nonsense. I quite like to dress, though. I must find out where she got that from. But
Lord Ali, I think, is where you go for that. You give Lord Ali a ring, he'll get you sorted out straight away. Get you some glasses, some dresses. You can use his penthouse if you want, anytime. Covent Garden, very nice. Also, I've got an offer for you, which has come in. Future plonk of the week, possibly. And I know we were meant to do this, but I ended up being away.
I know what you're going to say.
It's going to be at Boysdale, though.
I know.
Have you already been told about it?
I got a text this morning informing me.
Well, are you able to make that, do you think? We'll come up with a suitable date?
100%. I am rather partial to Boysdales.
Yes, me too.
And of course the lovely Mark. So yes, try keeping me away from that.
Okay, all right. We'll get the champagne and the plus English sparkling wine on ice for that one. Very good. Well, listen, we'll talk to you perhaps on Friday morning if you're still up after the Makerfield scenario. What's your prediction?
Good. Oh. Don't ask me that, mate.
Okay.
I don't
know.
Right.
I
don't know. I don't know. I think
it's going to be close, is all I know.
I I just get so frustrated about the people that may be voting with starry eyes, thinking that their MP will be the next Prime Minister. But oh my goodness, I just urge them to think about his stance on Europe, to think about, by the way, his stance on women, because don't forget, Andy Burnham was the one that did not want to commit or push through to the Supreme Court ruling on female safe spaces. So Andy Burnham was quite happy to let trans women, I think that, I don't know what the term, but a man dressed as a woman, whichever way round you call that, use female toilets, female changing rooms, female safe spaces. Andy Burnham was very much in favour of that. So I urge all the women voters in Makerfield not to vote somebody who will not come out and protect women and female safe spaces because he doesn't want to upset the trans lobby. So there we are again. So think about Europe, think about immigration, think about women's safety before you put your cross on that sheet next to Andy Burnham's name.
Okay. Sarah Poachin, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Sarah Poachin there, MP for Reform for Runcorn and Helsby. Fascinating
Love
woman.
Sarah.
Isn't she great?
Love Sarah. But she makes a really good point because, I mean, you look at those iconic photographs of not only Princess Diana, but also Margaret Thatcher. Up in Hereford, going through the exercises. Right. I mean, royal family members go up to Hereford from time to time.
It's nonsense to say you can't talk about it. You can't
it's utter nonsense. Right. It shows support, but I think if Keir Starmer went up there could be an ND or a negligent discharge in the Kill House potentially. Could happen. They've got an impeccable record, but accidents happen.
Maybe you should send Mrs. Starmer. They might prefer to see her.
I think they probably would actually. I've got a great story about Tom King, which I'll tell you another time.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to bail off, my friend. I have to pull the rig.
But it's been terrific to see you as ever.
Lovely to see you. I believe I may be seeing you later in the week as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Charlotte's been messaging me.
Really?
Yes.
Are you doing planks?
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Excellent.
There's loads of candidates, though, aren't there?
There's so many. You know. And in fact, I want to bring it up because we haven't.
I want to go to Boysdales too.
You want to go to Boysdales? All right, we'll take you there. We'll get you on Plonk of the Week there. It's not a problem.
Love to. With Sarah, please.
The other thing, the other big story that we haven't really done much on is this ridiculous situation from Nature England, who wanted to basically assassinate all of the Dartmoor ponies because they wanted to re-wild Dartmoor, right? And actually the government have stood up and said, we're not going to let you do that.
Quite right.
And it's one of these ridiculous quangos, right? Who have been set up by DEFRA, which is one of the worst run government departments of all time. So we'll get into that. I'm certainly going to nominate them for a Plank of the Week.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. She wants to kill off all the ponies.
It's disgusting. I'd be down there protecting the ponies.
In this country, people
animals
care about
unfortunately
animals.
take a priority over people for me most of the time.
They should do. Because they can't help themselves. We can help them.
Exactly.
Anyway, Will, great to see you. Thank you very much
lovely.
indeed.
Thank you.
Terrific as ever.
Thank
By
you.
the way, breaking news for you. Apparently, Keir Starmer has strongly hinted that he will bring Andy Burnham into his cabinet if he wins the election on tomorrow night. According to a piece I'm just reading here, Keir Starmer says, I want him to have a big role in government.
Oh, really?
Well, how about he has your role in government? Because that's what he wants. Absolutely incredible. We've got Howard Cox to speak to in a moment. Should we do a bit of news first?
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes with your Wednesday bulletin. Tensions with Russia escalated as a Russian warship fired warning shots near a British yacht in the English Channel. A retired couple described the surreal incident, with shots fired close to their vessel amid heightened UK-Russia friction. In politics, Labour faces internal pressure. Ex-Defence Secretary John Healey and senior figures criticised defence spending plans as insufficient, warning of operational cuts. Health Secretary Wes Streeting signalled readiness for a potential leadership contest. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a sweeping ban on social media for under-16s to protect children, while committing UK support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz with allies. Other stories include ongoing defence and migration debates, plus Prince George set to attend Eton, a day dominated by security, politics and child protection. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Mark Littlewood coming up at midday in the new channel, UK Live Online. Also, Russell Quirk with the Quirk Report at 10 o'clock. It's all happening here because we are expanding the empire, which is only right because we're doing so well with my show that we thought we might as well add a few on in addition. Howard Cox is here, though, the man from Fair Fuel UK. Howard, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. How are you, mate?
Very well indeed. Sorry to keep you waiting. It's all go here at the moment. We've got a big Makerfield by-election coming up, as you know. I don't know whether you've been up there or whether you've had a chance to sort of, test the temperature of the place. What do you make of it all?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm trying to stay apolitical again, Mike. I've done the journey from in the last 2 or 3 years standing in various elections, and really I've got to focus on drivers at the moment. In my opinion, it's going to be a scrape-by victory for Burnham, followed by a reform, but I do think Restore will actually make a significant impact. I don't know what that will be, but I think it'll be definitely double digits in terms of percentage. So, Burnham's on his way. Now, you made me laugh just now when we just heard that Burnham's could be in Starmer's cabinet.
Well, I mean, how deluded does one man have to be? He said, well, Burnham doesn't want to be in your bleeding cabinet, mate. He might offer you a place in his cabinet, but it's not going to work the other way round.
Well, it's the classic keep your enemies closer, isn't it? The old adage. The guy, Starmer, is just, I watch him all the time where he's talking and everything like that. And I get really bloody angry, Mike. I can't believe this man is so deluded to believe he's doing the right thing for the country. I've had a mandate when I won the massive majority back in, 2024. I know what I'm doing. The people want change. Yeah, they want a change of you prat. So that's the thing that's happening, and certainly my inbox is full of drivers saying, please get rid of the front bench now, preferably the whole government.
Because they've let us down in every way that they could possibly do. The only thing that I suppose they haven't done is they haven't accelerated the onset of, you must have an electric car or else. They see, I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, but Ed Miliband apparently now is refusing to take the Prime Minister's calls, according to a piece of the Times. He's just ghosted him, So, what does that tell you? Even they don't care about him anymore.
Well, who's got the biggest rattle, the biggest pram? This is I'm staggered by this. The whole electric vehicle thing. I understand Starmer's going to tell manufacturers, they've got a target to in terms of what they manufacture, have 80% by 2030 that all electric vehicles are being manufactured.
Well, I think you guys need to get your own coffee machine, though.
Yeah. Then he wants to reduce that by 50%. Who knows really what they're thinking, but I do like the pressure that's on Miliband about getting rid of net zero, and even Wes Streeting said he's going to dump net zero if he became Prime Minister.
Right, exactly. And the other thing that I find interesting is that I was listening the other morning, I think it was Monday morning, in the wake of what was thought to be the deal being done over the Straits of Hormuz, and it was some financial guy from the city saying, well, of course, we won't feel the reduction in price for a while at the petrol pumps, because of course they've got to remove all of the landmines or the mines that are in the sea, and it's going to take, well, it didn't take long for them to put the bleeding price up, did it? Even though they bought all the fuel, and they bought the fuel some years ago or months ago for a lot less money, and they suddenly went, oh, don't worry, we'll just stick it up to 160 a litre.
Well, Mike, you might as well play all my responses to you for the last 15 years in terms of about this thing. And let me give you an example. Since May the 1st, pump prices have fallen by 2 pence. That's all for petrol. Yeah. And yet the wholesale price for petrol has fallen by 15 pence.
Right.
Just let that sink in. And for diesel, it's even worse, because the wholesale price has fell by 22 pence in the last 6 weeks, but the pump price has fallen by only 8 pence. So who's making the bloody profits here? And why isn't the government really enforcing the pump watch project I put in place with Claire Coutinho back in 2 years ago? The thing is, there's opportunistic profiteering and there's high taxation. The driver just cannot win.
No, exactly right. And when, for example, I think it was Monday morning or Tuesday, they were saying that the price of a barrel of crude had gone back down to sort of 80 cents a barrel, down below, or $80 a barrel, down below 100, that was only about $10 more than it was at the start before the conflict began. So, it's practically gone back to normal, and yet we're still paying through the nose.
You're absolutely right. In fact, it's $78 today. When you think about that, we hit $118, that's $40 more.
It's like 50% increase, isn't it?
Exactly. We don't see that at the pumps. And I understand that not everything about or when the oil comes down by that much, it's going to be affected at the pumps. But we're not getting anywhere near like the fall that we should be having. And I believe that petrol is 10p higher than it should be at the moment, and diesel's about 18 pence higher than it should be. And that is impacting on our growth of GDP, inflation, every aspect of our lives. And yet these prats of bloody government people just don't see that. All they care about is ripping us off and spending and high taxation.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, there's no conversation really going on about it. I saw Rachel Reeves the other day coming out and saying that she was going to reduce the tax on red diesel. And I'm going, well, what's the point of that exactly? You've already ruined most people's lives if they're running a farm. You're now going to give them a few pence off the tax that you charged them for red diesel, which was meant to be non-taxable in the first place. What are you playing at?
Well, all governments, it's classic, all the way since the Tories as well. And we're seeing it with Labour again and again. They haven't got a clue what it means to actually, in terms of costs of driving the economy. And the biggest cost to most businesses is travel costs, i.e. fuel prices, all those sorts of things. And particularly for agricultural side of things, they're already fighting. They're being ripped off by supermarkets, things like milk, etc. If they reduce their costs, i.e. the red diesel thing, as we know, it was cheaper before. And you remember, we used to be stopped in lay-bys to check when we got red diesel in our cars and vans and trucks.
I mean, when I first saw it, I thought that was still illegal, but I guess it's not anymore.
Well, I know quite a few, and I shouldn't be saying this, white van men still got a bit of red diesel in their vans. Right. So if they are caught, they're in for severe trouble. But the fact is, they are desperate. They're resorting to desperate approaches now because they can't afford to actually run their businesses. And I know of at least 100 logistics company on the verge of bankruptcy because of the cost of fuel.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely incredible. Listen, Howard, good to talk to you. I don't know how long you're going to be able to manage to stay apolitical, but good luck with that. It's quite difficult in this day and age, it has to be said.
Well, I'm just off to film Plank for the other side, mate.
Your old favourite. Oh, dear. Don't give them my regards, as they say.
Take care, Mike.
Tell them it's copyrighted and we're going to get a lawsuit soon because we've got enough money now. We're going to hire some lawyers. We'll see how we get on.
I'd love to be on your show on that one. I'd rather do it. Anyway, take care.
Right,
cheers.
We'll see you soon. Take it easy. Howard Cox, thank you very much indeed. I've got this now. I just want to show you this because this came in the post the other day. Isn't that nice? And what's nice is it's been made by a 12-year-old boy, right? And it comes from Claire, Jamie and Lewis Hunt. They say, please find enclosed 2 3D printed signs for your show. They were designed and printed by our son Lewis, who's 12, on his 3D printing machine. We have watched and followed you over the years from TalkSport Talk and now to your own show. Best wishes to you and your team and good luck with your ongoing success and your brilliant show. So thank you very much indeed. Claire, Jamie and Lewis. And then P.S. Your heron is definitely bringing you luck. We have got a lot of herons. I'll tell you what's funny is in the other studio, the UK live online studio, where they seem to have got a cast of thousands. They've made about 15 coffees in the last 5 minutes. I'm going to ban them. We're going to lock the door and ban them from coming in, right? You want to get coffee, get your own bleeding coffee machine because you can't come in here and start making coffee while we're in the middle of the show. Anyway, thank you, Lewis, very much for that. We'll put it behind me and you'll be able to look at it every single day. And the other one I've got up in my house, actually, which is nice. We haven't done too many super chats. Let's do some here. One here from Iderman in Germany, I think. Don't want illegal immigrants either. In Germany, it was a bit late for that, isn't it? Get a hair bobble, says Dopey Dave. What's a hair bobble?
I've got one in my bag if you want.
What, is that one of those scrunchy things?
In,
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I quite like my hair a bit wild. I think people do, you know. I mean, I might have to get it cut again soon. We'll see. Simon, thank you very much indeed, as ever, for your super chat. One here from Hev Chip, brother of Henry's killer. No charges. Disgusting. Yeah, that's Henry Novak's killer. The brother of the Sikh guy who's been sent to prison, whose appeal, I think, on the sentence was going on yesterday. I don't know what happened with that. Yeah. But yeah, the brother apparently isn't going to be charged after all, even though it would appear that he was certainly being accused of being complicit in a load of lies that were being told to the police. Love this show. It's so relaxed, says Margaret. Well, I feel very relaxed, actually. Having had a few days off, I feel absolutely replenished and renewed. And it is relaxed because we are relaxed. We're not tense. We're not flustered. You know, things go wrong from time to time. We don't get too worried about that. For example, Carol Decker coming up next. Is she here?
Yeah.
She is here. It says here that she's going to talk about an anniversary, but I don't know which one. What's the anniversary? Carol, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. You've got a nice tan there.
I have, thank you. Yeah, well, I was in a lovely part of the world. Cyprus was amazing, right? And very quiet.
I used to go to Cyprus a lot. My dad used to work in Saudi Arabia. We used to go meet him in Cyprus.
Oh wow, right.
Yeah, so I know Cyprus very well.
Because you forget, don't you forget how close it is to that part of the world, you know, because when I came back, it was like 4.5 hours on the way back, 4 hours flying out there, and you were kind of a stone's throw from Lebanon.
Yeah, I know. It's quite worrying, isn't it?
Which is not great.
My husband and I were discussing family holidays when we were kids, and we were the package holiday family, you know, and we used to go all the way to Cyprus and go to a bar called the Faulty Towers for our English breakfast.
Right.
And then we used to look everywhere for a Chinese.
Yeah. Brilliant.
We didn't eat anything local at all. We were such Brits abroad when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, it's like when my older kids now, when we were younger, we used to take them on some of those trips to like the Canaries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you'd be in San Juan in Gran Canaria, and it would be the sort of egg and chips brigade. You know, don't want any of that foreign muck. You know, it was quite funny, but yeah. Anyway, so listen, you want to talk about touring? We saw you last at the very successful Shepherd's Bush Empire show, which is now out there. I don't know if you've seen it. Actually, we've got a film available for people who are on Substack.
Yeah,
okay, well, I've got. Well, I'll send you the.
I was there.
I'll get Charlotte to send you the whole show because it's worth watching. But so anyway, how are you? How's the touring going? What's going on?
Really, really well. So thanks so much for inviting me on to talk about it. So yeah, it's the Be Wonderful tour, and we've extended it by about 5 or 6 dates. We've had some other venues come forward and say, "Can we take the shows?" So we're at Salisbury Playhouse this Saturday on the 20th.
Right. Okay.
And then we've got 4 or 5 more dates towards the end of the year, aside from all the festivals we're doing and stuff. So if folks want to go on to power.co.uk, they can see if we're coming to a town near you. And it's the Be Wonderful tour. And there's the album. Look,
And that's that great picture of you as a child, isn't it?
Yeah, signed and numbered. Look, we've done 1,000 limited edition signed and numbered. There's a
Nice.
It's selling really well. So I've been really, really busy. And today is my 20th wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's the anniversary. Okay. Wow. Well done. Well done. I didn't make that one, unfortunately. I got to 14, and then that was the end.
Well, Rich has just told me, and I didn't know this. He looked it up, and this is funny. It's China. So
Oh, really?
China in your hand, isn't it? Yeah.
Brilliant. That is fantastic. So hopefully he's bought you something China then, has he?
Well, no, we've got a lovely. Well, I was going to say this could probably go in your poll actually, because my husband does like to take me up the Shard once a year.
Does he? Yeah, that's nice. That's very nice. Very enjoyable.
Well, I've got used to it now, and it's only 1 year, so that's.
Yeah. Well, it's something to look forward to, isn't it? Really, especially for him, presumably. The joys of independent broadcasting. You couldn't have said that on Talk.
I know. We've got it's my favourite joke. Yeah. Well, up the dirty the Oxford Road in Reading. That's
absolutely
right.
right.
We've got a lovely lunch booked. We're going out for a lovely lunch. We've got a nice bottle of Veuve Clicquot chilling, and we're having the day off because like I say, we're back on the road on Saturday the 20th, and then. If I can tell our lovely viewers and listeners, it's our Power's 40th anniversary next year. So we're going to be out touring Bridge of Spies, which was our quadruple platinum.
Oh wow, yeah, nice. And in terms of like the festivals and stuff you're doing in the summer, what is that more kind of I don't know, exhausting if you like, because you have to go and presumably you have to stay there and do you have to camp or do you glamp? What do you do?
I don't camp. God no, I need a palm tree, a swimming pool, and a cocktail. I don't go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, it depends where the festival is. I mean, and we're always very well looked after. Like I'm flying out to Vienna next week to do a fantastic festival out there. So it's always lovely to go to exotic places, and just done 80s classical at the in Poole at the Lighthouse Theatre, and that's fantastic with a huge orchestra. We did it with the Bournemouth Philharmonic last week. And also did Let's Rock Southampton at the football stadium, which was fantastic. So there's lots going on. This is brilliant.
You're really having a fantastic kind of resurgence, aren't you? I mean, I don't know when that began, but I mean, I don't want to be insulting to you, but I mean, in the last sort of 2-3 years, it's really taken off, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, the live work, as everybody knows, and this is a different conversation, and I want to bring some light to the day with this bloody government. But, nobody earns any money from the record sales anymore. It's all been decimated by streaming and stuff. So you have to get your arse out there and be on a stage to to earn any money, and it can be quite grueling, you know.
I bet, yeah.
I wasn't the Beatles. I didn't make a King's Ransom. I've done okay in my life. I've done okay, and I'm very grateful for it. But unless you're out there working,
yeah,
you're not earning anything. And I've got a fantastic band. I've got responsibilities to people. You know, it's a little. I run my own business, and it's very cottage industry now, Mike. And I've got my own little record label. I just put my own music out, organise my own thing. And it's great, and we make money, and we have a great time, and hopefully we bring some fun to everybody, which I think everybody needs at the moment.
Oh, I think so, yeah. Well, we're sort of in the same boat here. You know, I was talking to Pooch this morning and saying, you know, it's a very different feel now to what I do as opposed to when I used to go into this big, huge skyscraper every day and work for a huge corporation for which I was very well remunerated. They paid me an awful lot of money. But I much prefer this, actually, because, you know, as much as it's a bit 24/7 and there's always something to solve and something to fix and something to tweak, but it's very satisfying to be just in charge of your own destiny, you know?
Yeah, it takes a bit of getting used to. By the same token, you know, I was signed to a massive record label. I was with Virgin for years, and there's all the kind of kudos associated. Well, in the old days, you know, you had to be signed to a label to be anybody or to be considered anybody. And it takes some getting used to, and you have to regroup, rethink, and think, can I still do this? Are there enough people out there that want it? You know, because that's the main thing, isn't it? And obviously you've got loads and loads of supporters and viewers, and that's fantastic, and you're expanding the channel. And I'm fortunate enough to still have some daft people that still want to come and see me sing. So
yeah.
you just have to
well, we
regroup,
just had a message from one of them who said, see the full show, it's absolutely brilliant. So, you know, you've obviously got...
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And as you say...
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, without wishing to turn the tone down a bit, we're just watching Starmer. You just kind of go, what on earth has happened to Britain? You know, and you sort of just have to go, this can't be the guy that runs the country. You know, somebody, as I was saying earlier, somebody described him as a bloke who would quite like to set up, his favourite job would be to set up a committee to reinvent the way a paperclip looks. That's kind of his mindset, you know. He's not creative. He's not interesting. He's not funny. He's got no discernible human skills at all.
No, I remember years ago when he was in opposition, somebody said, if Starmer told me that there was a giant meteor racing towards the Earth and we were all going to die, I'd still fall asleep. that's how boring he is. It's funny, when the whole Brexit thing happened and the country, it's the first time, I think the last 10 years, the country's been very polarised and very split. And the amount of venom and hatred on social media for anybody who'd voted to leave, it took my breath away that, you know, people could hate that much. But I feel it now. I hate this government with a passion every day. I find a little bit more loathing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, people, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, we've all lived through plenty of terrible prime ministers and terrible governments and all of that, but I've never seen the vitriol about an individual. I mean, even Tony Blair in his lowest ebb, you know, people, you know, didn't like him, but they didn't really hate him like they hate Starmer. I mean, people just literally say, I can't even stand listening to his voice. I can't watch him. It's horrible.
No, I mean, obviously we're all very, very mindful of how I think the Tories were just lazy. They failed to invest in the country. They sat back on their laurels. I just think let things tick away and slowly disintegrate. And we can see that now with just the potholes, for example. You know, that's a very visual representation of the decline of the country. I live in Oxfordshire, and when I moved here 20 years ago, it was one of the most well-heeled counties in the UK.
Yeah.
In Henley-on-Thames, our main streets, they look like a dirt track through the Serengeti now. It's just shocking.
Right.
None of the verges ever get trimmed. It's just dreadful. But in the just under 2 years that Labour have been in, they've dismantled our country. The speed of it's been breathtaking.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's the speed of the demise of it all that's really, really shocking. And one of the things that I said earlier this week is that when you do go somewhere else, and you realise how awful it is. And when I was in Cyprus, it was quite quiet because a lot of people aren't going there because of the war and whatever. Yeah. But, you know, the roads are clean, the streets are clean. They've got this amazing system where we were staying, you put your rubbish in a place outside the house, but there's a door that opens and you shut the door, which can be then sort of locked. And then on the other side, the street side, there's another door where the rubbish men pick the garbage out and put it in, and it's so simple. But it means that there's not rubbish strewn all over the street. Foxes aren't eating it. Rats aren't getting into it. Meanwhile, we've got sort of wheelie bins all over the place, and it just looks awful. Potholed roads, and everything was just seemed more efficient. It just seemed better. And and also one of the things that they've got in their favour is it's a very small population. They haven't got thousands and thousands of people living in a place where a few hundred people used to live, which is what it's like now. The whole of southeast England now, probably including Oxfordshire, is just a traffic jam constantly.
Yeah, no, I don't think all the birth of the delivery industry is helping that.
No,
either. I'm as guilty as the next person. Oh my God, I shop with my thumbs. But that's added to the traffic.
But nobody thinks about that. They go, oh, it's great, isn't it? Because I can get everything delivered. And you go, well, it's great up to a point. But, when you've got 30,000 lorries driving around at any given time, 30,000 Ubers in London driving around at any given time, it's no wonder you can't get anywhere,
I know. But hopefully, and fuel costs, listening to Howard. I can't chime in on any of these topics. I really could. The fuel costs now for my shows are ridiculous. They're off the scale. So we did, on Sunday, we did Butlins, Minehead. They have big 80s weekends all the Butlins places. They're fantastic. And we come pretty much from the southeast, Manchester, and our sound engineer comes from Essex, so he's quite far away. But my fuel costs were 415 quid to do that show. And that's almost a third more than it used to be.
Yeah.
So everything's costing a fortune. Everybody's putting their fees up. It's just, we've got to do something about it. And I don't know how we're going to survive the next 3 years with these utter morons in charge.
Well, I worry as well about my kids. I've got the two older ones, not so much, but the two younger ones, 21, just finished his university degree, doesn't really know what he's going to do. He's not really sure. He studied a bit of music, sort of management type stuff, But he might end up coming to work here because I'm not sure what other jobs he's going to be able to get. And my other son, who's 19, is decided not to go to university initially, and he got himself a job, and he's doing all right. But there's not many jobs out there. And I was saying just the other day, I drove past this pub that I used to go to down in Sussex, and it's shut down. And those are the kind of places that kids could get a job when they were 15 or 16, and now you just can't get one.
No, well, the other side of our family work ethic, if you like, is hospitality. My husband's been in hospitality for nearly 40 years, and my kids are in hospitality as well, like a lot of young people are. They're getting their hours completely slashed. Yeah. And around here, around Henley, there's loads of pubs that have just gone. They've just gone, and the facts don't lie. And I don't understand how. They stand at the dispatch box or speeches to camera and say, we've done this, we've done that. No, free breakfast. They're not free, actually, because we're paying for them.
Exactly.
And that's your big achievement, is it? So they're decimating the country. And I think that I wish there was a way. Remember how Gina Miller, during Brexit, was always trying to take the government to court? About what had happened. I wish there was a way we could do that. They are actually causing harm to this country. They're not protecting us. They're not supporting us. Ed Miliband concreting over all the oil wells and stuff. It's just they're doing actual harm to our country. And I wish there was a way they could, as opposed to just be voted out, be prosecuted for it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more.
They're an enemy of the state. They are an enemy of the state, absolutely.
Totally, couldn't agree with you more. Listen, great to see you. Can you also give your neighbour Mark Wogan a kick as well, because he keeps promising to organise a weekend long lunch for us.
Yes, we need to do that. We've
somewhere out in your neck of the woods. But every time I call him, he answers the phone and says, "I can't talk." I'm like, all right then. So tell him off and tell him he needs to get his act together. Otherwise, I'm going to come for him.
I shall nag him.
Do that, and have a lovely anniversary. And regards to both of you, and enjoy being taken up the Shard. Because
I'll brace myself.
It's something, something we all hope for at some point or other in life. Carol, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Carol Decker, on tour, on fire, and on everything. It's brilliant. Great stuff. Carol Decker from Tapau, and their 40th anniversary, I think she said. Is it next week? I think that's what she said. Let me see. 40th anniversary next year, sorry, yeah. And her today 20th wedding anniversary, which is rather nice, isn't it? Absolutely fantastic. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking to Laura Perren and also Baroness Kate Hoey is going to be here to talk about the state of play, generally speaking, and a little bit about what's been going on in the House of Lords. A super chat from Martin. Put up the Arsenal on your poll. Well, we could do that. Thank you very much indeed. We were trying to keep it clean, by the way. Eiderman, yes, because Merkel invited them and Merz is a joke. I'm not sure what that's the answer to, but here we are. Should we get some news first with Edward Hughes? Does that sound like a thing?
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your Wednesday bulletin. Tensions with Russia escalated as a Russian warship fired warning shots near a British yacht in the English Channel. A retired couple described the surreal incident, with shots fired close to their vessel amid heightened UK-Russia friction. In politics, Labour faces internal pressure. Ex-Defence Secretary John Healey and senior figures criticised defence spending plans as insufficient, warning of operational cuts. Health Secretary Wes Streeting signalled readiness for a potential leadership contest. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a sweeping ban on social media for under-16s to protect children, while committing UK support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz with allies. Other stories include ongoing defence and migration debates, plus Prince George set to attend Eton, a day dominated by security, politics and child protection. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Welcome back to the Mike Graham Show. It is 9:28. Time has flown. It's already Wednesday, by the way, and we're less than 24 hours away now from the by-election in Makerfield. Kate Hoey will probably have something to say about that, I'm sure. But first, Laura Perren is here to talk to us about that terrible story a bit earlier in the week about the gay couple who had adopted a child, baby Preston, as he became known. Who unfortunately suffered the same fate as so many young children do at the hands of monsters who have been kind of somehow overlooked by social workers. Jamie Varley, 37 years old, convicted on Monday of murder after physically and sexually abusing 13-month-old Preston over 4 months. His partner, John McGowan Fazakli, 32, was also found guilty of causing or allowing Preston's death. Sentencing actually takes place tomorrow, but what a terrible, terrible story. Laura, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Graham.
You can call me Mike if you want.
Mike.
It's all right. No, it's a sort of in-joke. Some people do that.
Who have I mixed you up with?
Well, it's my own fault for having two first names, is what I say. It's not. It's one of those. It's one of those things. It's fine. But again, I always find myself asking the same question when things like this story pop up. How has it happened again? How are we going to learn lessons again? How is another review going to make any difference?
Yeah, well, look, this is a really terrible case. As you said, sentencing is tomorrow, and I've seen a lot. It has received a lot of coverage. It has been on the front pages. I followed the trial very closely. It was a 6 to 7 week trial of extremely harrowing evidence. The judge has excused the jury from serving ever again for life on jury service. And I only say that because you only get excused from jury service for life if you have had to sit through a very harrowing trial. And people shouldn't be under any illusions as to what this is. Jamie Varley, it was close to a sort of a 25-count indictment. And Jamie Varley was convicted of murder and also 2 counts of assault by penetration, as well as child cruelty, grievous bodily harm by essentially breaking this baby's elbow, sexual assault, and 13 counts of taking indecent photographs of this child. His partner was convicted of causing or allowing the death of a child, and 2 counts of child cruelty and sexual assault. But the really tragic thing about this case, Mike, and I think it distinguishes it again, not that in the hierarchy of barbarity that often is meted out by adults to children, this child was given to this pair. It's bad enough when it happens in the family context and some of these tragic cases too. But when you actually have a state who has, and it was Oldham Council was the council involved, who have approved this couple for adoption, placed this child with Preston Davy, with this couple. And Mike, the timeline between when this child was placed with this couple until he died was 115 days.
Yeah.
That was how long that child was. It was a very short time, and he was. It isn't an exaggeration to say that he was really subjected to a really horrific level of not just sexual and physical abuse, but really nasty emotional abuse, where the jury was shown a number of videos of this child being emotionally abused, kept up at night. He wasn't allowed to go to sleep. I mean, you wouldn't do that to an adult.
No.
So there are a number of. It was a very harrowing case, and the questions for the state now and for the politicians who have remained suspiciously quiet on this is. The child was brought to hospital on at least 3 occasions before the final occasion when he died after being murdered by Jamie Varley. Is again, why did people look the other way for fear of being labelled homophobic? That is a big question we need to ask ourselves. It could be wrong. The answer could well be no, but I sense that there was either a conscious or subconscious bias working with social workers and the medics at Blackpool Victoria Hospital that stopped hard questions being asked when this child he was only a year old basically. And if you go to hospital with an infant 3 times in a row in quick succession, you can expect tough questions to be asked.
Right. Well, I mean, I know from my own experience of having children, one of my sons once sort of toppled down a few stairs and cut his head, and we took him into the hospital to be seen, and suddenly we were separated. His mother was taken into one room, I was taken into another room. Yep. You know, there was a lot of questions about, you know, how did this happen? Obviously trying to put the narrative together as to, you know, whether we had somehow caused the harm. And I just don't understand, as well, as to your point, what the vetting procedure was here, because, you know, the kinds of things that these 2 men did to that poor little boy, you don't just suddenly start doing that. You know, that doesn't come from nowhere, it seems to me. Surely to God there would have been some clue as to how they were going to behave as parents and their suitability, you know? Yeah,
Mike, I mean, on the first point, I have been there as well. I can't remember which of my children. I think they might have broken an arm or something, and you're brought into the room.
Yeah, it makes you feel like a criminal.
Yeah, look, I don't mind that. I ask the questions, you know, but the difference between that, you know, a child that's running around, look, you know, it's summer now, ask any nurse. There loads of kids are being admitted because of broken. The minute the sun comes out, you get loads of kids with broken arms. But this was an infant, and medics, the medical evidence was very clear that this was a non-accidental injury, because he's not moving, or he's moving around a little bit, but he was actually a toddler. And just they did alert Lancashire police. But then it didn't go any further. And what you actually had, and the evidence at the trial, was you had 2 social workers essentially, I mean, it's really quite tragic to look at it now, saying, and they write it in such a way so that the child will read it later as he grows up. Unfortunately, Preston Davy didn't actually survive that long. So one of the social workers said, just to reassure you, this was in a text message to Jamie Varley, who's been convicted of murder of this child. Just to reassure you, she said, the hospital have absolutely no concerns. And later in her notes, she said Jamie was beside himself and was feeling bad about Preston's arm. This was the broken arm, the grievous bodily harm. He was very teary and gaunt looking. Now, you know, that's only one section of her notes, but it looks to me there that she was more concerned about how Jamie Varley felt than the condition of an infant. So there are definitely tough questions to ask. And as I said, I think the politicians have been incredibly quiet over it. I mean, I remember the fallout from Peter Connolly. That was obviously a tragic case as well. And that case was raised in Parliament. And so far, this case has not, I haven't seen a single politician, including Kemi Badenoch, say a single thing about this case. It may well be because the sentencing is tomorrow, and that's fine. That makes sense. You shouldn't comment before the sentencing occurs. But let's wait.
I don't agree with that, actually, Laura, because I think the problem with politicians these days is they're consistently looking for ways to hide behind issues that they can't talk about. You know, Starmer does it a lot, where they talk about, you know, oh, it's an active case, I don't want to get involved in that, or there's a police inquiry going on, or, you know, I mean, there's no reason, there's no legal reason why somebody can't comment before a sentencing. There's no legal reason why Kemi Badenoch couldn't come out and say, throw the book at these horrible pair and lock them up for the rest of their lives. What's wrong? Why could she not say that?
Well, I'm not so interested in that. I would prefer, because that will be influencing sentencing, although the judge will be extremely experienced. But the question is certainly, why, in terms of the vetting, why did this couple secure this child? And more importantly, why were there no questions asked as the injuries and bruises started to build up? In terms of the vetting, I mean, the evidence from the trial was the vetting was extremely, strict, and we have to take that at face value. But because the other thing, Mike, is men like this are extremely manipulative, and look, I have been left scratching my head just how anybody could do this to a child. It is awful. It is truly awful. But the bigger question is, and the bigger policy question is, that politicians shouldn't or should ask but won't, is that why are we giving infants to two men at all? I mean, I think there should be a blanket ban on that, whether they're gay or straight. There's no civilization I know up until 5 minutes ago who would hand over an infant to two men. You clearly need a maternal care in relation to a very young child, and yet we're all supposed to just go along with this brave new world that actually it makes total sense just to be handing over babies to men. Why? Whoever thought that was a good idea? No, these policies just come out of nowhere, and we're just supposed to go along with it, and you're not allowed to ask any questions as to why.
No, you're absolutely right, because you will now be put into a box and you'll be told that you're homophobic, and most men are not like that. And in fact, there are plenty of men that adopt children as a couple who don't do this to them. But you're right. You're not supposed to say these things, and that's why we are here, because you can say those things on this show, and maybe if you can't say them anywhere else. So, Laura, listen, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Laura Perren's there talking about the dreadful, absolutely awful case of poor little baby Preston. I mean, I don't even like to think about these kind of stories because they're so awful and ghastly. And the idea that anybody could harm a little child in the way that this child was harmed before the murder, before he died, and the suffering that he went through. Absolutely terrible. Charlotte says this: the sad fact is that one was a teacher. There are photos of them with pets. Did they hurt the pets? The teacher would have done safeguarding training. These evil people are everywhere and teaching kids. Well, yeah, the one that was teacher was also in charge of safeguarding, apparently, in the school. And you just think, goodness gracious me, how on earth do these people exist? There's some funny noises going on in my earphone, Charlotte. I don't know whether you can do anything about that. But I'm delighted to say, on to slightly less horrible matters. Catherine is here. Catherine, Kate, Hoey, good to see you.
Good morning, Mike.
Very
nice
good morning. Welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't seen you for a little while.
No.
We're in an interesting week, aren't we? We've got, that horrible story. I sort of really don't want to talk about it anymore, but it is terrible. A day away from Makerfield. I don't know if you've been up there or whether you've been talking to people up there. What are you making of it all? I haven't been up there,
no. I've been talking to various people. I was at the launch last night of the new book
the Ashcroft book,
a couple of people I've spoken to about that. Yeah, it's quite. But so there were a lot of people there, obviously from Reform, and who'd been up. I think I remember saying at the very beginning that Andy Burnham was a really well-known figure, and people, no matter what they think about him wanting to come in and just take over because he wanted to be Prime Minister, there actually is a lot of people who quite like the idea of their MP being the Prime Minister. Yeah. So I think we are allowed to talk about it.
The great thing about this show is it's the one place you can come before the by-election actually happens and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will probably win. I think the important thing for Reform is, by how much he wins or that they lose by, because the media will immediately say, this is Reform. Oh, Reform's finished.
It's all
Reform's
finished,
and I think they have to be they should have probably played it a little bit more carefully at the beginning by not saying this is the most important, by-election ever.
Because they're sort of not saying that now,
They're not saying that now, and I think, they're probably winding down expectations. But then the positive thing, even if Reform lose, is that immediately they're probably going to go into a Labour Party squabble with who knows who might come forward and want to stand. And of course, the real story will be: is the Starmer going to fight it? Is he going to stay on? And
there's a bizarre story that broke just about an hour ago.
Right.
The Sun have covered it this morning. Somebody's been talking to Starmer out of the G7, where he says that, if Andy Burnham wins on Thursday, I really want him to have a very important role in my cabinet. And you kind of go, really? Well, you maybe find that Andy Burnham will be the guy saying whether or not you can have an important role in his cabinet.
Yes.
Because Andy Burnham has already said, if he does win, which I agree with you is probably likely, although I'm not certain.
No, it's not certain. And there will be a lot of what we call silent reformers.
Yeah, the shy reformers. Also, a lot of undecideds as well.
Yeah. I am quite annoyed, and probably I'll annoy a lot of your listeners, but I am quite annoyed at Rupert Lowe.
Yes.
Because I don't see, they haven't stood in the...
They're not standing in Aberdeen South, are they? No.
This is one by-election that they're fighting, and they're putting loads of people in. And, if Reform lose by the amount that Restore have taken, I think people, no matter how much they might personally like him or think that he's saying a lot of things that they agree with, it doesn't look good.
It doesn't. And you're right. I think the problem is that, nobody has the right to tell somebody not to run.
No.
And nobody has the right to say you shouldn't do it. However, it's quite clear what's going on, isn't it? He's in it
there's a feeling that it's just
reform.
A personal
thing. It feels like he's in it to damage reform rather than just to sort of start a new party. Because, again, I'll be in trouble with some of my listeners and viewers as well, because a lot of them quite like Rupert Lowe, quite like Restore. But I just feel as though it's, all of the criticisms that he has for Nigel Farage, it's a one-man band, he runs it as a private company. Restore is exactly the same.
Even worse.
If not worse, So it's kind of a...
But, getting back to what we were saying about the Labour Party, Wes Streeting definitely looks like he's going to launch a campaign, a bid.
Yeah.
And that means that Andy Burnham, even if he's being offered some big job in the cabinet, would have to make a decision. And then we might see one or two others come in,
Well, Richard Tice was in here yesterday with me, and he said that he's hearing some quite strong voices suggesting that a combination of John Healey and Al Carnes might be a goer
Al Carnes,
as well.
I thought his speech yesterday was not just aimed at saying why he was leaving, resigning from
John
defence.
Healey the same.
John Healey, both of them. And John Healey in particular is a very steady kind of loyal person who would not have done that without really giving it huge thought about why he was doing it. And yes, of course he's doing it because he cares about defence, but you just feel maybe he might think
well,
of
it's
going
interesting because when he was first appointed to cabinet, when they first won in July 2024, Healey was seen as one of the kind of more sensible individuals, one of the more kind of solemn and qualified people, right? But as a result of his association with Keir Starmer, he sort of became a bit of a laughingstock during the period of time when he was Defence Secretary. Now he's kind of regained his own popularity again because he's separated himself from it.
Yeah.
Because Starmer is just... I can't believe how bad he is.
No, and he looks... I noticed this morning when he was doing that interview, he had an interview, I think, with GB News, and he looked really tired, really kind of even more dour and sort of miserable and no
Well, we saw that picture of him and his
all.
wife at the Trooping the Colour, where they both looked like about as miserable as two people could ever look. So, and it can't be fun.
I don't think if there's a full staged campaign with Burnham and Streeting and perhaps Al Kearns or John Healey or even rumours Shabana Mahmood might put her name forward. I can't see Starmer. I think if he feels he's got the slightest chance of losing, I think he'll stand down.
And this is the thing.
He could go with dignity, couldn't he?
Well, you would think. All the stuff that I've read over the past weekend, I'm sure you have as well, which is usually spot on. Patrick Maguire in the Sunday Times is pretty well clued up. He's obviously got some very good sources inside of Downing Street, and it seems as though his support within the party has completely collapsed, and nobody wants him to hang around. Which is why they were saying, I think, on Sunday, he might even have to announce that he's going to leave on Friday if Burnham wins, and Burnham will immediately then say, "I want to be Prime Minister, so let's have a fight over it." Starmer, if he's convinced by everybody around him, look, you're going to get slaughtered here, you should just walk away. then
Yes.
surely he should just walk away, shouldn't he?
Well, look, I think he could go then with some kind of dignity.
Yeah.
He won't have much legacy left. He won't have any real legacy, but at least he won't go down. He won't be seen to kind of split the party even more, because if he stays on, the party will be. There will be some people who will genuinely still feel loyalty to him.
Yeah.
So I think it depends what his family
left.
are saying to him as well. You never know. He may.
I mean, I guess in politics, and you've been in it a long time, and you've seen people
There's
coming
always
and
a way
going.
out. You're always on the way down, aren't you?
You're always, as soon as it's like, I always say it's like football managers, prime ministers, and newspaper editors. As soon as you get the job, you kind of counting down the days till you lose it, because you know that's the way it's always going to end.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've been a Labour Party veteran. I don't mean to insult you.
I am a veteran.
And you've seen an awful lot of changes. I mean, I've said before that I wonder if Keir Starmer's legacy will be actually that he killed off the Labour Party, because I don't think, even if Burnham wins and he becomes the next Prime Minister or doesn't, I don't see Labour as an entity winning another general election for a long time.
I think that I said it's not a question really. Well, Starmer was particularly bad as a leader and no charisma and all of that. But any new leader, it's not changing the party.
No.
I mean, no matter what Andy Burnham says about wanting to change things, he's going to find it extremely difficult, because he's got the same problems that Starmer has. But also, the Labour Party has lost a bit of. If you go and ask someone in the street now, what does the Labour Party stand for? I'm not sure people can give you a
I think working class people certainly.
No, they certainly feel that it's not their party
feel that
anymore.
They represent them anymore.
I mean, years ago, as you know, Mike, people would vote Labour if it was the donkey'd put their name on it, because it was Labour was their party. That all changed, of course, with the change on the European Union, and 10 years on, a week ago, or 10 years this week, of course, we were all involved in that. And, people then, that was the first time they'd kind of gone against, a lot of them had gone against Labour views.
And also what Reform have done, I think, quite cleverly, is that they've filled a vacuum in a place where nobody else was, effectively, because,
they said what a lot of people were thinking but couldn't say.
Right.
And now Reform I think Reform now has the problem that they mustn't try and outflank Rupert Lowe. If they must try and keep to their own principles.
I think so. And I mean, my sense of the whole Rupert Lowe project, if you like, is that it is to the right of Reform, and to some extent that helps Nigel Farage, because it means that the people that he may not wish to have in his camp, if
have
you like,
somewhere else to go.
have got somewhere else to go.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a big enough number in the end to bother him in terms of, say, a general election. It might be big enough to bother him in Makerfield, but I don't think it's big enough, certainly not at the moment, to become anything other than a kind of protest party.
No, and he is. I mean, we don't want to talk about Rupert. I'm sure has Rupert been on
He hasn't been on this show. I had him on the old show.
He's done some good work on the grooming gangs.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems is the grooming gangs report, which came out yesterday, isn't even reported in any of the papers this morning.
No,
not anyone's talking about it.
I think it got mentioned on GB News, but that is.
Yeah, no, I saw a bit of Patrick Christie's show last night, and he was talking about it.
Yeah,
and a lot of people.
But I mean,
giving
that's
him
been
praise.
his kind of main thing that he's been working on. But they haven't got anywhere in terms of setting up a proper political party.
No.
I mean, you don't get elected. He's no chance of forming a government, no matter what happens. Whereas, Reform has.
Right.
And I think there'll be a lot of people come, and of course that's the other thing. Whether once there's a change of leader, whether there will be a push for a general election. I mean, I would be surprised if any Prime Minister would go for a general election at the moment,
I don't think they
because
want
they're
to.
ordinary members, their MPs will be furious.
Because a lot of them would lose their jobs.
Yeah.
But I mean, my kind of contention has been since about 18 months ago or so, or possibly longer actually, that there will be some kind of calamity, whether it's an economic calamity or some kind of civil calamity, whether it's the streets burning again like they did last week, where there'll somehow be a forced general election. You remember in the 70s when Ted Heath kind of was forced into calling a general election because of the miners' strike and because of I think it was the power station strike as well. And there have been other cases where, like Callaghan had to do it.
There's always reasons for
there can be reasons where an election suddenly is forced upon them.
I mean, politics is very unpredictable, and we've seen so much of that in the last year even. So you're right, but I think I don't think the country could bear staying on for the full 5 years. You know,
No,
it's just. I mean, what
because
more
I mean,
could,
as you say, the kind of the decline in the state of the country, in the kind of anger that's being felt up and down the country. There's a sort of unrest and an unease. I mean, again, boring people to death about being in Cyprus last week. When you were away, you sort of
you were looking very suntanned.
Yes, thank you. It was lovely. But when you're away, you kind of see things through a slightly different lens. And I could see, and I was watching, you know, the streets of Belfast on fire, the riots going on in Scotland, you know, the Southampton situation with NOAC and all of that. It's kind of, it feels like a very angry nation right now. And where I was, as Bob points out, I was in Cyprus. Thank you for letting me know. It seemed just a very much happier place, you know, and people weren't walking around on edge. You walk around in London now, people are sort of on edge all the time.
It is, you're right. And there's always something happening. A train's cancelled, or there's been a bomb scare, or, you know, an alert, as they call it now. But, of course, what could happen, to cheer everybody up, presumably, although it'll probably be a big damp squib, is England playing. You know, if
they're playing tonight.
And if they play tonight and they win, then, you know, the media and everybody, we're going to win the World Cup, and then they'll go on to the quarterfinal and
lose on penalties. Right.
But it might cheer people up. But you're right. I mean, people just feel there's no real leadership in the country.
There isn't.
Now. And
well, it's like, I mean, look at Keir Starmer right now in
France,
Evian. Sipping the water and sitting there. I'll get your view actually on him taking his wife, because I mean, I know that there's a sort of a tradition of that, but there's a piece of footage that we played a couple of times today of him and his wife going up to meet Vladimir Zelensky, and it's all very nice and all whatever, but I'm like, what the hell is she doing there?
No,
why should she be there?
I've never thought that it was a good idea.
Right.
And if you remember, Margaret Thatcher very, very, very rarely took Dennis Thatcher anywhere.
Right.
and he was
quite happy with that.
he was quite, he didn't want to be. And I've got a feeling that perhaps, I mean, she hasn't, Keir Starmer's wife hasn't been going to as many things, but the international ones.
She likes to go abroad.
Yes.
It seems. She likes jumping on,
and I didn't see whether all the other wives, husbands. I don't know whether Meloni, the Italian, had she.
I don't think
I've
ever seen her husband.
No, I don't think.
You know, Trump,
no, I agree with you. I think it's
Melania.
You know, it's most people who work, you know, as a plumber or a whatever. They don't take their husbands or wives when they're off working.
Exactly. You don't just go, by the way, here's my wife or my husband.
Yeah.
Because people will go, what have you brought them for? You know,
certainly if it's
work.
A plumber.
Exactly. You know, how are things in the House of Lords? Let's talk about
that. We had a period there just before the new session where we were voting all the time because it was through. But the way the House of Lords works, we're now on second readings of bills, and then you go into committee and there's no votes, and then you go into report stage. So we won't get any votes much until on anything. I think the worry, you know, is going to be. I mean, obviously there's going to be some stuff on this under 16s being banned from social media, and that's going to come up fairly soon.
Which is another kind of typical Starmer bill, isn't it?
It's a typical thing.
Because he's actually said...
he doesn't know how it's going to work.
He said, well, he's always admitted that it won't work, but he said that's not a reason not to introduce the bill.
And he changed his mind. I mean, but he wasn't really very good at answering why he changed his mind when someone asked him. No, I mean, I just think the idea, and it really annoys me because I'm against votes at 16.
Yeah.
But the idea that Labour wants votes at 16 and then someone at 15, you know, and then a month later they're 16 and they can vote, and yet they won't have been able to, you know, make up their own mind about doing things.
You can't watch a party political broadcast on TikTok, I'm afraid.
So it's a knee-jerk, the usual knee-jerk reaction. And what we have to do more and more is what are parents doing? I mean, I know it's difficult to control what children do.
It's not impossible, though.
But it's not impossible.
No.
And I was talking to some Australian cousins who were over this week, and they were quite pleased about it for their 7-year-old because they thought that was going to stop their 7-year-old. Maybe, you know, it's been banned in Australia. Yes. But for their 13-year-old... they thought it was wrong, you know. So if you're going to do it, maybe it should be a much lower age,
Well,
perhaps-
it's easy to ban your 7-year-old from doing things.
Yeah.
It becomes more difficult when they get a bit older.
But the idea is that if they don't start to sort of go into things, but the parents could do that anyway.
But I was talking to Ellie Hodges, I don't know if you know Ellie, who was in yesterday, who's quite a young woman.
Oh, very much,
who's brilliant for her age. And she said there is a part of the sort of the youth of any generation where if you make something illegal, they're going to want to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've also got that effect, that you've got people going, well, were you just obeying the law, are you? And then I'll have
Well, when they banned hunting, more and more young people went out hunting.
Right.
Went out trail hunting. Of course, now they're trying to ban trail hunting as well.
Well, this is the thing. They love banning stuff, don't they?
Yeah, it was an easy thing to do, and it makes you look like, they think they're doing something. I'm quite sort of libertarian.
Me too.
Unless it's you can prove that it really is going to damage something.
I mean, I think there's something in what other campaigners have said who are not in favour of what Starmer wants to do, who say, look, put the onus on the actual suppliers of the material, put the onus on the tech companies.
Yeah, make it easier to be able
so
to
that you can't actually find, videos of people being beheaded, and you can't find horrible pornography. Outlaw that, and then we'll all be a lot happier. And that way, it won't matter so much what your kids are seeing, because they won't be able to see that kind of thing. It's not there.
Yeah. You see, at my age, I find it even difficult to kind of make sure that I get my emails. Never know.
Yeah.
Wanting to find out how to.
The number of times you can't get into into a website because you can't tell how many traffic lights there are.
Exactly.
But yet they can't stop really hideous, ghastly violence and pornography.
Yeah, it is.
Surely they must be able to.
Well, I mean, I'm not a technocrat, but I'm sure they could.
Yeah.
But of course, it's all part of them not wanting to, probably because they
make money.
Make money. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, people say to me that the only two things, and it may be different now, but certainly a few years ago, the only two things that make money on the internet are pornography and gambling.
Well,
the rest
talking of gambling, I just discovered this week that FIFA, the governing body of football, are actually now at the World Cup not just making a fortune out of ticket prices and media and all of that, but they're actually getting a cut of the gambling. They're involved in one of the gambling. Yeah.
Interesting. I was hearing actually yesterday that apparently FIFA have now got an office in Trump Tower, where there's some jiggery pokery possibly going on between. So they're paying rent effectively to the Trump estate.
I think the World Cup was ruined when they decided to have it in different countries.
Yeah.
It's not fair on the fans.
It's really, I mean, Qatar was bad enough, Russia was bad enough, but this is a lot worse.
This is ridiculous, And
the idea that they've got
Canada, Mexico, America.
And these dehydration breaks and all that, or hydration breaks, whatever they call them, I mean, they've effectively turned football into a game of 4 quarters.
Yeah, no, it's
which I don't think anybody wants.
No, but that's all part of FIFA's way of, finding a way of. They just want to change things all the time, and the fan is the last person who. I mean, Northern Ireland nearly qualified, and we would have been in Canada, but the cost of tickets and for everything.
I mean, I look at the Tartan Army and I think, how the hell are they?
Well, a lot of them aren't getting tickets too. They're outside, but it's still, to be there, but it's still wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Well, a friend of my sister's who lives in Connecticut, who's a Scot, decided to go up to Foxford to try and see the game.
Right.
And he drove up there, and not only could he not get a ticket, but they wanted to charge him £200 to park his car. So he just drove back again.
Yeah.
It was
I went
ridiculous.
to Mexico in 1986 for the World Cup, and it was as cheap as anything.
That was the Hand of God
That
week
was wonderful, yes.
wasn't it?
And it was Northern Ireland played Brazil in Guadalajara.
Yeah.
And Pat Jennings played his last game.
What a memory that is.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Brilliant.
Mexico was wonderful, but I think it's all changed now too.
Yeah.
It's much more expensive.
Yeah, I think so. It
all
really
right,
is bad.
so well.
Now we've got a new show that comes after us, so we have to be stopping on time, don't we?
Yes.
We haven't done Pooch's Pooch, but never mind. Baroness Kate Hoey, great to see you. Thank you very much for popping in. And we must have lunch or something soon.
Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be nice. Coming up, Russell Quirk with the Quirk Report, and possibly some news with Edward Hughes. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow at 7 a.m, and we'll see you then.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your Wednesday bulletin. Tensions with Russia escalated as a Russian warship fired warning shots near a British yacht in the English Channel. A retired couple described the surreal incident, with shots fired close to their vessel amid heightened UK-Russia friction. In politics, Labour faces internal pressure. Ex-Defence Secretary John Healey and senior figures criticised defence spending plans as insufficient, warning of operational cuts. Health Secretary Wes Streeting signalled readiness for a potential leadership contest. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced a sweeping ban on social media for under-16s to protect children, while committing UK support to reopen the Strait of Hormuz with allies. Other stories include ongoing defence and migration debates, plus Prince George set to attend Eton, a day dominated by security, politics and child protection. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers!
Hi there, Mark Littlewood here, in Mike Graham's seat. But as of Monday the 15th of June, I'm going to be in a different seat for UK Live, giving you everything you need to know about the World Cup. Is it finally coming home after 60 years? I'll be broadcasting from the beautiful town of Calador in Mallorca, which has vast numbers of sports bars for me to watch every second of every single match. We're going to have guests, chats, and don't worry if you don't really understand football or if you're not interested in it. This is going to be a sideways take on the biggest sporting tournament that mankind has ever seen. We'll never be offside, but you might sometimes see me bombing down the right wing. We'll be looking at what's happened in the previous night's games, what's going to happen in that evening's games, and we're going to be profiling as many of the countries as we can. There's 48 of them in this year's World Cup. What do you need to know about not just France and Argentina and Spain, but Curacao, Haiti, the Cape Verde Islands, the long shot minnows. Be there from noon weekdays on UK Live, joining me for a World Cup. See you then.
The revolution will be televised. The revolution will be televised.